Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the new adventures of K-Man and Spence. You may recognize this voice from the Disney Deconstructed Podcast, but I'll be the host of this show. And my name is Spencer Bennett, and I am joined by my co-host, the K-Man in the title, Kieran Collins.
Hey, what's up, guys? Nice to meet you. I've been a big fan for a long time now. Now I got my own podcast.
So if you pay any attention to the Disney Deconstructed Podcast and other shows that we talk about, we just recently launched what is called the Deconstructed Podcast Network. And we're trying to kind of branch out and cover a lot of different topics. And something that I mention casually on that show a lot is that I'm a big comics guy, specifically big DC guy, but their logo tattooed on my forearm. I'm wearing a shirt right now. I'm very big on that stuff, in addition to my Disney geekdom. So I have a separate interest that I'm equally passionate about. So I pitched this idea to other co-founders, Jake and Lane, and, the crew, Preston, the peoples.
Deconstructed Squad.
The Deconstructed Squad, and pitched this idea of a comic show, a show about nerdiness. We'll talk anime, we'll talk comics, we'll talk comic book movies, we'll talk comic book TV shows. We're anything that is nerdy and based on something that was once drawn, we'll talk about. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We are still working out a structure. It's going to be real nice and loose. This week, we are going to be talking a lot of DC, not just because I'm a super fan, but because this weekend is DC Fandome. And if you've been living on Twitter at all in the nerd spheres during this coronavirus pandemic, DC Fandome has been kind of a big deal. Warner Brothers is basically launching their own Comic-Con, but all DC stuff.
It's looking like it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. It's all virtual. So we will be talking DC this week in honor of that. And a couple months ago, the internet broke when they confirmed they were redoing Zack Snyder's Justice League. Finally, they're doing the Snyder Cut, which is old news at this point. But to celebrate that, about a week or two ago, the two of us rewatched the two Zack Snyder DC films, the Ultimate Edition of BVS, not the theatrical cut, with Jake Moody, who is not on the show, but he did embark on that journey with us. So, Kieran, tell us, what was your history? Those are some controversial films. So what was your history with those films? How did a rewatch feel? Just give me how you're feeling.
Yeah, okay, well, I was saying to Spencer before when we sat down to watch these movies, the one I was really excited to watch was Man of Steel, because Spencer's favorite movie of all time, possibly. It's definitely up there anyway.
It revolves, it's in the rotation.
Yeah. Favorite superhero movie, though, I'd say, right?
Oh, for sure.
Probably?
For sure.
Yeah. So when I saw it originally, like back when it first came out, I was expecting it to be more like Christopher Nolan Dark Knight-esque. It was taking the same like realistic approach to superheroes that was taking, but it's just because it's Superman that it was like all like blockbuster, and the whole third act is just one giant action sequence and stuff. So at the time, I was young, and I was kind of like, just didn't really do it for me, like I guess it's just the vibe of the crowd I was in or whatever when I went to see it, but it let me down. But then on the rewatch, now that it's kind of, I feel like it was ahead of its time. I feel like now that we are in this world that we're in now, where like superhero movies are such a commodity that are always being shown all the time, it's kind of refreshing to have one that's just a very straight shot, like straightforward one that kind of goes away from the Marvel clownery, which I love, but also it was different. It was definitely very different. And then moving on to Man of Steel, which when it first came out, I really liked Man of Steel.
You mean Batman v Superman?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, Batman v Superman. Yeah. I really liked. I liked it when it first came out because I went to see it in theaters with my friend, and like, we're gonna spoil it, so I'm just gonna say it's like spoiler alert.
You haven't seen these movies by now. They're many years old, and they're highly controversial. So I'm sure most people have seen many pivotal scenes in these films. Yeah,
most people are understandably so. A lot of people really don't like the theatrical cut, right? And that's when I saw it in theaters. Like my first impression of it, I liked it because like when the Flash runs through the portal and all that stuff that like kind of really like doesn't really make any sense, but I was like, it's comic books, I like this, right? And then when I rewatched it, I could never bring myself to absolutely hate it, but when I watched the Ultimate Edition, I thought that was a great improvement. It still all the same problems, but it just kind of enhanced what was already good, sort of.
Yeah, I think
that's my general overall.
I think in the case of the Ultimate Cut versus theatrical cut, Jeremy Johns, YouTube reviewer, who I'm sure most people have heard of, has a great point on this, where it takes a movie that doesn't work in a traditional sense for a lot of people, and it will make it work. The story makes sense, but there's still like moments that if you thought were dumb before, you're gonna still think are dumb. It's not gonna, yeah, like it's not gonna, it doesn't get rid of the Martha scene. It doesn't get rid of like the really intense kind of all of a sudden doomsday fight that kind of comes out of nowhere. It is planted throughout the movie. That's one part that I don't know why I feel like weakly about it. I love the fight, the action scenes, obviously, and seeing Superman stand there with Batman and Wonder Woman is wonderful, and that's a huge dream of every comic fan ever to see on screen, was the Trinity.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that does feel really rushed. I think it's because the first like 2 acts of the movie I think are great, and they're really kind of like this moody, almost like mystery of like what's going on here, why Batman's solving a mystery on his own, Clark Kent's investigating Batman, Diana's sprinkled in here throughout, just doing little things, kind of just saying, hey, I exist. Lex is being very manipulative. And then it kind of does a complete like shift into like this giant action movie, where in that first 2 acts, it's kind of it's a drama almost. It's like a character study a little bit about Batman, I think, and like the rage that he is directed at Superman. And there's you made a great point watching the movies that Zack doesn't hold your hand. The way he directs, he kind of, there's visual stuff that if you don't pick up on, things won't make sense. Man of Steel, the first act of Man of Steel is just 0 to 100 in no time flat. And I respected it. The first time around it was jarring, but this time around I was like, okay, fuck yeah, you know? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that. My bad. That's my first strike. Doesn't matter. It's he, like specifically with Bruce's character, it was super controversial that we got this really dark Bruce who doesn't necessarily kill people, but also doesn't save people. It's very reckless. He doesn't really care. And I always thought it was interesting with, the Robin suit and all that, and just kind of like hints at his past. Whether that was a good idea for your first film with a brand new Batman character is a different discussion altogether. And accessibility to mainstream audiences, again, is a different discussion altogether. But I think approaching these movies as big fans of these characters, I find them extremely interesting. Especially the choices BVS makes to start a universe are incredibly bold. But I think your point of like these movies aged well and are ahead of their time is very true. Because I think now a lot of super movies that come out are very, they feel very similar. And whether that's a good or a bad thing is up to your own interpretation. But I think there is a not necessarily a style, but there is like beats that they kind of all hit. And I think that Zack Snyder is a very polarizing guy with a very like directed vision. And it wasn't for everyone at the time. BVS, like I get it. There are things that don't work, like I said earlier. But Man of Steel, I always contended is a masterpiece. And it's just that it goes in a way that no one really... I mean, he tries to do the Christopher Nolan treatment for Superman. He does this really kind of not realistic, but very kind of like gritty, grounded science fiction-y take.
I mean, the idea of Superman inherently is not realistic, but he is going for a semi-realistic take. It's dramatic. It's like a dramatic realism, but it still is kind of, hey, what if Superman was in our world?
Right. And I think that most of the negative reaction to Superman or to Man of Steel is a lot of people saying, well, he's not the hopeful Superman I know. He's not, he's not Christopher Reeve. He's not dopey Clark Kent. And I'm like, well, look at the time and place this came out. This was post the Dark Knight trilogy, which took, Michael Keaton's Batman was pretty dark and serious, but it was also very gothic and stylized. But after that, you had the Schumacher films, which were goofy. Adam West was goofy. This was a really dark take on Batman. It put him in a realistic world, and those movies were critically acclaimed. A lot of people don't know that Christopher Nolan picked Zack Snyder to do the Superman movies. Him and David Goyer pitched Man of Steel to Warner Brothers, but Nolan didn't want to do it. He was done doing comic book films. But he said, hey, I have this idea for Superman, and I think you should have Zack Snyder do it, who was hot off 300 and a couple other big action movies.
Could you imagine Elseworld of Christopher Nolan directed Superman movie?
I'm going to be real with you. I think it would be very similar to Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if the action at the end would have been as incredibly stylized and almost gratuitous, but I think that's on purpose. I think that adds into the realism of what would this actually look like if Superman was fighting in the middle of Metropolis. And also, a lot of the criticism for that is he should have brought Zod out of the city. He's been Superman for like 2 days in the movie. I think not enough people talk about that.
I would love to fully get into talking about realism in that movie, like the obvious, like the 9/11 imagery.
Yeah,
it is definitely starting with like a hot topic right off the bat, but also I think like that's you got to talk about that if you're going to.
When you're talking about Man of
realism.
Steel, you have to talk about these very polarizing decisions. There's obviously great Superman moments in it, and I love Henry. Henry's great. The acting across the board is great. But there are some really bold takes that if you talk about Man of Steel and avoid them, you're not really talking about Man of Steel.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your take? You give me yours first.
On the realism?
On realism, yeah. On like, I guess, I'll start off. With the third act of that movie, I like, we were watching it, you, me, and Jake, right? And Jake Moody, God love him, is a very vocal viewer of movies, right? If he's feeling something, or if he's like has an emotion of any sort, he'll be like, wow, or aw, or that kind of thing.
He's a talker,
movie, right?
Not like an annoying talker. He just makes little comments like, oh my God, every time someone starts fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, so with the 9/11 thing, I think he was the first one to really mention it, right? The way it jumped out and stuff. And I was saying before, like there's that whole subplot in the third act with the guy who plays the guy from The Matrix. What's his character? What's his name?
Perry White.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne is the actor's name, I think.
Yes.
So Perry White's trying to help one of his workers because she's trapped under some debris from an explosion, basically. And there's like a lot of tears. It's a very dramatic moment. And while we were watching it, Jake was just like, wow, this is straight up 9/11 stuff. When I was watching it, I was like, yeah. And it begs that question of how far can a superhero movie go into realism before it was that disrespectful, And I'm curious what my take on it. I think it was an interesting thing to do in 2013. That's what I think. Yeah. That's when that movie came out, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It was an interesting move at the time because 9/11 was like only around 10 years old at that point. I feel like in today's world, because of the amount of blockbusters we've now seen, people wouldn't raise their eyebrows as much, but for the time, it was kind of scandalous for good reason.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's done on purpose to invoke how serious, how intense this actual situation would be and this battle would be. I think the imagery, like there's a full-on like airplane that crashes into a building because the military is trying to get to the world engine, and it's a gravity weapon, and it launched into a building, and the building falls. I think Zack did it on purpose, I'm sure, to give that kind of, to invoke that kind of feeling of like, oh my God, this is like a tragedy. This is a crazy like full-scale tragedy. Like the city is crumbling, and And I mean, they pay it off in BVS a lot. The very opening scene is like, oh, okay. So this is the whole.
Do you think though that he wanted to do that, or do you think that was a response to the backlash of Man of Steel?
I think it was going to come back because Zack always toyed with the themes of like, does the world need a Superman? Superman is a controversial figure. In Man of Steel, there's a couple lines where he talks about like, I'm not going to work for the government. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to help you, but I'm on my terms. I'm not going to be like the government stooge that a lot of Supermans in the comics are, specifically in The Dark Knight Returns, which is Zack Snyder's biggest influence of any graphic novel, besides Watchmen, but he did Watchmen. It's a different movie. Yeah. But in The Dark Knight Returns, Superman is like a stooge for the American government, and he's a moron. And Bruce is like cynical and like, you've sold out. Basically, Superman's sold out and kind of is just a weapon for the United States government. And it's very resemblant of like Reagan and Nixon and that kind of moment in time. And Frank Miller is very political, whether he weaves it in well. But yeah, absolutely. I think Snyder was trying to almost do like a vigilante-esque Superman. In a way, it's a Superman that is very much inspired with a lot of Batman tendencies, but coming off the heels of The Dark Knight, Warner Brothers wanted more of that. That franchise just made them $1 bajillion. All three of them are critically acclaimed. Some people have strong or different opinions on them now with years in between. Obviously, The Dark Knight is incredible, and I love Heath Ledger's performance in there. I'm not crazy about Bale Batman. I think I mean I like him. Like, he's definitely not bad, but I think there are some, like, the voice is silly. There are things that a lot of the mainstream conscious seems to be like, yeah, those weren't great.
The Dark Knight just is such a good movie.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm not trying to take away from that at all.
I get what you're saying. I think the only this is an offshoot, but just on Nolan movies really fast, right? I'm not huge on, and I don't want to alienate audiences or whatever if there's like people listening to this who disagree or whatever, because of course interact with us and start a conversation or whatever, right? But The Dark Knight Rises, I maybe need to rewatch, but I that movie doesn't sit well with me for some reason. Just because
it's been a while since I've seen it, and I remember liking it the first time I saw it, and then on a second watch, I was like, I don't know if I loved that.
I think exactly what my problem with The Dark Knight Rises is just how it's filmed, because there's so many sequences of Batman being in like this like really bright lighting, basically, and that's like when the voice and when all those other characteristics don't work for me is when he's not in the shadows. But I think that in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, that never really felt off to me, even though talking like this is like very strange and like, why are you doing that? But at the same time, like, I kind of suspended disbelief because it's just so good. Yeah.
No, I this is not me trying to tank those movies. But I do want people to look
it's
at
even
them.
It's even my coaster right now. My coaster is the book for the Dark Knight script.
Dark Knight concept art
and shit. Yeah.
Nice. I think those movies are a little bit idolized, and they're great. They're great movies. But I think a lot of people, when they come after Man of Steel, and I really think people need Man of Steel a rewatch. I know there's 100 YouTube videos you can watch of someone going, Man of Steel's bad, and the next guy going, no, Man of Steel is a masterpiece. Yeah. I think just give it another shot, especially now in the different climate of superhero films. It was a bold movie that made a lot of interesting choices. It does something new with the character. In the same this is like why I keep bringing up Nolan. You compare Nolan's movies to the Batman films before. It was a completely new take. But people, for some reason, weren't okay with a new Superman take at all. And I know that Batman in the comics, obviously, is a way darker character than Superman. But there are dark Superman stories. There are Superman stories where he's not necessarily brooding, but he's dealing with a lot. And I think Snyder went in a direction on the heels of those movies and tried to do something new and kind of reinvigorate the Superman character. And a lot of people go, he doesn't understand Superman. I'm like, I don't agree. I think he had an idea of what he wanted to do. And I think he wanted to make a movie about Superman becoming Superman. That's why the movie's not called Superman Begins. It's called Man of Steel, because he's not Superman yet. He's like this big superpowered guy who doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know. His father, his whole upbringing is telling him like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you reveal your secret, maybe you don't, but I just want you to be my son and I want you to be safe, and the government might dissect you. Like, he's like, I mean, it's like a trope of an alien movies, but it's true. Like, you don't know what's going to happen if the government finds out your son is an alien and has superpowers. Like, Snyder was trying to do, in my opinion, succeeded in doing that take. In like a 21st century world where we're afraid of it, where there's a lot of dark things going on, especially now. And at the time there was too. What if Superman occurred then? What if this happened then?
Yeah. I also think about it. I think that going back to how I would say it's ahead of its time and stuff, talking about Marvel movies, I feel like those have kind of established, there's so many of those, there's like 20 something of them now, right? So I feel like audiences are a lot more comfortable going into the movie theater being like, okay, I'm not going to get everything maybe because like very few people have seen, unless you're really into it, like the common moviegoer hasn't seen every single one of the Marvel movies, right? So there's going to be a little bit of like, who's that, even if you go to see Infinity War broke every box office record in the book, and yet that movie is just bringing together the plots of so many other movies that I know, like when I went to see with my family, for example, they were lost. They were like, who's that, but it's still enjoyable nonetheless. And that's kind of, they're very different movies. I'm not comparing them in that way, but that's Man of Steel, because it was a very bold way to start your universe. And I think that the interesting thing about the progression of DC movies is that they've gone from Man of Steel, which is not accessible at all, really. But if you're willing to go with it and you're willing to commit to going along with what the narrative it's showing you, it's a good movie, you know. But so then they went into the realm of like the phase of everyone loves Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's fantastic, right? And then Shazam and Aquaman are both also great, but they're a lot more accessible. You know, they kind of went away from the Zack Snyder vision and instead
I would argue
more...
Man of Steel is accessible. BVS isn't for a lot of people. But I think Man of Steel is a pretty self-contained movie. There's a lot going on, especially with the Codex plot and the whole Krypton opening. There is a lot going on, but I don't think it's inaccessible to the non-versed comic book reader. Like, I think as a general audience, you could get it. It's a very lengthy... There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts.
It's if you compare it to Iron Man 1 though, you know, like sure. Iron Man 1 is very small scale, and it's kind of like he has a superhero adventure, and then at the very end there's the implication that, oh, there might be more superheroes than you think, you know, on this world. And then it slowly kind of shows you the narrative, and then it waits 5 movies until you have the destruction of New York, essentially, right? And that's what I mean by accessibility. I mean that, like, it's all the intense stuff happens in that first movie, you know, and there's not much buildup. It kind of just throws you into the fire, which I appreciated and respected. And I like.
You mean with the Krypton sequence? With
the Krypton sequence, and with, like, by the end of the movie, that fight is giant, you know. Yeah. There's nothing undertoned about it. And so I kind of like that at the same time, because I think it's different, but it's just maybe not what audience viewers or moviegoers at the time wanted, you know. I think it was just maybe a bit too much for them at the time, but I like that it's going back. That's my main point. Is I like that now with the movement of the Snyder Cut, it feels like, and with the DC Fandome coming up, based on their announcements and stuff, bringing back Michael Keaton, Batman, the Flashpoint movie, you know, all the other kind of weird stuff they're now doing. They're just like, we're just going to go for it. I think that's great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the Snyder Cut movement definitely changed the conversation of these movies, and you see a lot of prominent internet figures kind of going back and going, maybe this wasn't as bad as I remember. Yeah, maybe Man of Steel is good, and I think a lot of what happened with those movies was kind of a groupthink. I think they were polarizing, and it's like when you're watching a movie with someone. We recently watched Akira, the anime. 80s movie that is very influential, and movies like that are polarizing and very bold and do a lot of interesting stuff can be like completely derailed by someone kind of pointing out that it's silly, and then which was me, I pointed out it was silly while we watched it, but once you introduce that idea, like, people just run with it, because Jake Moody passionately hated these movies. He sat down and watched them with us, and I said, just give it a fair take and let me explain to you afterwards why it's great. And he watched it, and now Man of Steel is his 3rd favorite DC movie. He really likes it. And I think it's one of those things where people weren't ready, which is hilarious, because the final trailer for Man of Steel, Henry Cavill goes, "My father thought the world wasn't ready. What do you think?" And I'm like, they weren't, Henry. They weren't. They weren't ready for this movie.
Hold your thought for the rest of the sentence really fast, because I just want to give a very quick shout out to the initial teaser trailer for Man of Steel, because insanely good, so good. Yeah. Stopped everyone dead in the theater when you see Superman like fly up. It's like, what's this movie? And then you see Superman fly, and it's like.
I remember sitting in the theater to watch The Dark Knight Rises, and I'm like 13 or 14. I don't remember what year that movie came out.
Yeah.
And this trailer comes. I'm like, oh, what is this kind of really well shot? I mean, another thing about Snyder, visuals are second to none. But what's this really well-shot movie? Oh, he's on a boat. Oh, it's a guy working odd jobs. And then the ending, boom. And I went, oh, my God, it's Superman. They're doing Superman. And then the logo fades into screen, and you're like, what?
Yeah. So one thing to take note of for this show, it's the new adventures of the K-Man Spence, or K-Man Spence, whatever it is. Me and Spencer are aspiring writers ourselves. So one part I want to kind of implement is the idea of sort of pitching, right? Like coming up with ideas for how it could have been done differently. One, I want to present one here, right? For Man of Steel, right? Okay. If you had said back, if I had been Zack Snyder, right? And it was like, what are you going to do for this Superman? Knowing 2020 hindsight about that movie and stuff, having seen it. My favorite part of that movie was absolutely the like second act of it, I guess, basically when
The
he's
flashbacks.
when he's going towards the Arctic. You know, the parts where like there's a scene in the diner where he helps the waitress who has some aggressive patrons. There's a part where he saves that oil pontoon, whatever it's called,
Where
oil
you get a
rig
feel of
in the
Clark,
ocean.
and you really get awe-inspiring Superman scenes.
And it's really, I think that was really the inspiration for the comic American Alien, which I think came after that. But that I think because I think Man of Steel inspired that comic. That's a really great comic.
Which is interesting because Max Landis is like vocally hates that movie, but I agree with you. I think he was influenced a lot. Having reread American Alien recently.
Yes. Also, this podcast official stance is that
not a good dude.
Max Landis can go himself.
Yeah,
honestly,
thumbs down to Max Landis. Not a good dude.
Big thumbs down.
Yeah. But I would be remiss if I didn't say American Alien is great, and it sucks that it's great. I wish it was terrible. I wish I could sit here right now and tell you it's the worst thing ever, but it's not.
Why do you want to wish that? I love that book. I'm so happy it's good.
Because Max Landis. That's all. I wish that what he was writing was bad, and it's not. And there's a lot of great ideas. And if I was ever handed the keys at DC to a Superman movie, there's a certain idea from that book that I would love to adapt. The Batman, that he wears Batman's cape at first, is such a cool idea.
Yeah, even expanding on that further, right? What would be really cool, and there's been talked about this recently, because we'll go into a little bit of news here, right? Because kind of there's been that call. Have you seen that thing on Twitter recently that they want to make a Black Canary HBO series?
Oh, is it same character from?
It's a rumor. It's a rumor. It's more of a fan campaign. Like there's nothing official from the company.
What is
or anything.
The actress's name?
I forget her name, but she's shown interest on Twitter.
But it's this. They're gonna do like the rumor is the same actress from Birds of Prey.
Well, by rumor, it just means that a bunch of fans have been saying, let's do it. And then she responded to that. And so people kind of like ate that up and were like continually tweeting HBO Max more and more and more, being like, make a Black Canary TV series. And on the same note, if the entire DCEU was started nowadays, and it was started as this like streaming TV show, like Empire thing they could make, that would be so cool. A Zack Snyder directed miniseries of Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, all that stuff. If instead of making the movies, if they made it into like basically like a gritty Superman the animated series, except live action.
Well, that's a good segue
cool.
into we had a nice little discussion about those movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you I recommend rewatching them. I really do. I think the Snyder Cut is a moment in culture, especially in like geek and comic book fan culture. The fact that people petitioned, and I signed some petitions myself. I'm gonna admit that I like Zack Snyder's movies. I do.
Yeah,
I'm in that camp, and I wanted to see his cut, because if you don't know a lot about what happened with Justice League, there are a million YouTube videos that are gonna explain it better than I can right now. Just look up Justice League, like behind the scenes drama. It is insane. The movie we got in 2017 was like 80 new pages were filmed in the reshoots with Joss Whedon. So if you still believe we're just going to get an alternate version of that movie, it's going to be a completely different film. But the segue for that you said about an HBO, about like a cuts miniseries, is that's the heavy rumor that it's going to be announced on Saturday along with the trailer for the Zack Snyder Cut, is that it's going to be like a 6-part HBO Max series. It's going to be like 30, 45-minute episodes with cliffhangers that Snyder's going to cut it so it's like a series. And a lot of people want the whole movie. A lot of purists are like, no, get Zack the cut of his movie. I honestly would prefer the series. Mm-hmm. I would prefer that. It's more time. I want them to release it weekly, so I'm excited about it for a month, or a month and a half. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I think you would get more content that way too. And then just do a super cut. Some guy on YouTube can do a super cut of it as a movie, and it'll be fine.
Or even have you seen the Hateful Eight Netflix series?
No, but that's like what everyone says.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. My review for that was 100%. I didn't even like the Hateful Eight when I saw it in theaters, because it just seemed too long and like self-indulgent on Tarantino's part.
But
right?
with breaks in it.
Yeah, but with the little breaks in it, really the movie didn't change at all. They didn't really have to do anything for the plot twist stuff, right? But I watched it. It's 4 episodes, and I watched it in 2 sittings. Mm-hmm. And that felt great, because it told me what my stopping point was.
Mm-hmm. We have an interesting relationship with 2017 version of Justice League. This is a fun little anecdote, but the two of us, our freshman year in college, got tickets through the One Iota app, which is like a seat filler app for a lot of Hollywood premieres and Hollywood events, and sometimes music shows. I
hope they make it through COVID. I never
Yeah,
thought
that'd be a
about
huge
that. But
bummer because
they
that's a
must
cool
be really
company.
struggling. They must be
Yeah,
really struggling right now. Yeah.
probably, and that's a really bummer.
They've
to
given
think
us
about.
they've given us so many
Yeah,
opportunities. That sucks,
we've had a
dude.
lot of cool stuff.
Yeah,
gotten through that.
we've got you. So keep going with your
Yeah.
story, and then we'll
So
add
we
more.
got tickets to the Justice League like world premiere in Hollywood, and we were on the red carpet, like right by the red carpet. And me being a huge fan of Man of Steel and BVS Ultimate Edition, there's a lot of stuff I like. There are stuff I don't like. I'm not in love with it. I like it. I won't defend it. I think Man of Steel is a masterpiece, and I will get into a full debate with anyone about it. I think it's great. I think Henry Cavill is the best Superman actor we've had, and I know people are going to yell at me about that because Christopher Reeve is like everyone's golden child, but Henry Cavill is Superman to me.
Yeah.
But we got to stand on the red carpet.
I'm the same way, just because I think it's just our generation. Because
Sure.
to me, like Christopher Reeve, I love Christopher Reeve, and I actually really like Brandon Ruth also, who's basically doing a Christopher Reeve impression in his movie.
That's where I am like, like he was good, but he was very much doing a Christopher Reeve impression.
Yeah, but I'd still say Henry also, just because like you, I'm the most used to Henry. Also, Henry Cavill as an actor is just a wonderful man. I have to say. Like, I haven't seen The Witcher. I have no doubt he's incredible in The Witcher because I've heard great things about it. But like Man from U.N.C.L.E., fantastic. Mission Impossible, Road. No, which one was he in? Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout. Yeah. He was fantastic in that. And yeah, as Superman, I think he really kind of proved himself.
My mustache influence for growing this quarantine stash was Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah, he looks fucking rocking with the mustache.
Wonderful. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't think he could get more attractive, and he did it. So hats off to you, Henry.
You've said this before. This is not my thought. This is Spencer's thought. But they should have just like kept mustache Superman when he was wearing the black suit in Justice League. Would have been great. Grab it. Grab that comic.
In The Death of Superman, which I have a collected edition right here.
Yeah.
When he comes back, he doesn't come back in this.
That's an exclusive for our video viewers
if you're
right now.
He's watching us.
He's holding up a comic
Death
book.
Superman.
Yeah.
This doesn't have his resurrection in it, but in this very famous arc that Snyder adapted a little bit in BBS, when he comes back, he has a mullet and a beard.
Yeah.
So why not just you already have the like it would be easier to CG on a beard or just let Henry grow a beard.
Yeah.
Than to get rid of the mustache, because that is like a hilarious bit in that movie, and the mustache gate is a real thing, and it's insane that it exists.
Another point that you made this point a really, really long time ago, probably like about a year ago, right? But I just remembered it just now. I think it was after we went to see Endgame, and you were like, yeah, that was great, but like all of the stuff that's being celebrated about Endgame, Zack Snyder was kind of punished for, sort of, because Endgame has Infinity War, Endgame, like the later MCU movies, the really big crossover ones.
Right.
So much shit happens in them from the comics that you would not expect to happen at all, And when it does happen, you're like, oh, whoa, they actually did that. That's crazy. I can't believe that made into a multi-million-dollar blockbuster movie that's very much what the general audience is going to see, right? And it's almost as if like Zack Snyder originally with Man of Steel was doing that, right? He did that kind of thing where it's like, oh, they're doing like the Krypton sequence. It's like, that is crazy. They're actually fully committing to this, right? But then because of that controversy, I think Warner Brothers just handled it terribly. Like not quite on Sony levels of mismanagement, or in a lot of time randomly, sometimes Fox was very hit or miss when it came to the X-Men movies. But Warner Brothers did a bad job because it's like, they became afraid of anything that pushed the envelope whatsoever, which just made for movies that seemed like they were made by like too many cooks in the kitchen, essentially, right?
Beginning of the end was Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
When we saw, what the movie that was advertised at Comic-Con in 2015 is not the movie that came out in 2016. There's plenty of YouTube videos you can watch that'll explain it better than I can. But they all those executives are fired now. It's a completely different team, and for the most part, since Justice League, I don't think they've made a bad movie. Joker is controversial, but I think at least from a filmmaking standpoint, it's competent. I know you have a different take on Joker than I do, and we'll get into that in another episode.
Mhm.
But it is a competently like well-made film. Whether you like the story and the choices it makes is a different conversation. But in the case of like a Suicide Squad and even a Justice League 2017, like there are basic filmmaking errors that are just awful.
We should do at some point in the future. We should do a double feature of Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey.
Yeah, just
because
what they attempted to do. Well, because David Ayer made a dark, gritty crime drama, and this is like very well documented. And they attempted to cut that into this hot topic mess. Birds of Prey did what they wanted Suicide Squad to be after they'd filmed it, and then they just did it well. And I think Birds of Prey is good. I'm not crazy about it. I think it makes some interesting choices that they think are way more clever than they are. But Margot Robbie as Harley is obviously wonderful. I really like Ewan McGregor in that movie. Yeah,
I agree with all that. I want to wait. I want to wait before commenting on that until we do like a rewatch.
Yeah,
because I feel like if you're I understand being a podcast listener myself from time to time. If you're listening to this and you disagree with that opinion, it's like, but you don't know about blah blah blah. And it's like, I want to have like a really I want to really watch that movie, because I liked it the first time, but I part of me wants to love it, the costumes and design of that are fantastic. That's wonderful. Absolutely, to me, its biggest strength.
So we'll get back to Justice League in a second and talk about the premiere a little bit. We got sidetracked. It's a podcast. That's why you listen, for fun anecdotes.
Conversational podcast.
Yeah, but for Birds of Prey, I'm a film critic. If you've listened to Disney Deconstructed before, I've talked about that. I'm published on the Cinema Spot, which is actually now breaking scoops and doing a lot of cool stuff. They're transcending what they were in the beginning, and it's awesome. And the team over there is wonderful. But if you go to the Cinema Spot, if you want to read my fleshed out thoughts on Birds of Prey that I don't remember right now, there is a full review there that I wrote, and I believe I gave it a 7 out of 10. Maybe it might have been higher. It wasn't lower for sure. It wasn't lower than 7. But if you want immediate Spencer Bennett thoughts on Birds of Prey, there is a full 2,000 word review there. So thecinemaspot.com, and then just search Birds of Prey review. And
do you give it scores on CinemaSpot?
I do. We give it out of 10. And
what do you give it?
I'm just gonna look right now. It'll take 2 seconds. Let's see.
I'm curious because I didn't read this at the time because I saw Birds of Prey way after it came out, so I didn't want to spoil it. But I'm curious.
Let's see what score I gave it. But yes, I'll tell you the score in a minute. But back to the Justice League story. We were at the premiere. And so we got to see that movie with all the stars. We saw all of them walk the red carpet.
We got really sidetracked. That's funny.
Yeah, we did.
I forgot we were talking about that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I got to meet Henry Cavill. He signed my Superman cape, which I lost my mind because, as I said on the show 20 minutes ago, I adore Henry Cavill. He is my Superman. He will always be my Superman. But I got to see him. We saw Gal Gadot. We saw even Zachary Levi was there. This was right after they announced he was playing Shazam, and he was at the premiere. We saw all the stars of Justice League. And I can't hate that movie because I had such an unbelievable experience seeing it for the first time. It's just like a memory that I will never associate negatively. But every time I rewatch it, that movie's got problems. And as a Zack Snyder fan, it is a huge bummer because it's so obviously not in the same vein of movie he made. And that's why I'm super excited about the Snyder Cut. And I see a lot of people go, what if it sucks? Then it sucks. It can't be much worse. It can't be worse. At least what Warner Brothers did with the Snyder Cut or the Justice League is you had a fan base who loved the Snyder movies, and you had other people who were kind of not really my thing. But when you put out Justice League, it wasn't for anyone. The people you were trying to win over were kind of they tried to win over not the Marvel crowd, but the more popcorn movie crowd. Not even that. That movie is bizarrely edited. It's 90 minutes, and the Snyder Cut is going to be 4 hours. So it's this is a different film altogether. But they whatever audience you were trying to reach wasn't there. So you made it for no one, basically. You wrecked this man's vision and used a horrible tragedy in his life as an excuse. At least that's what's discussed on YouTube. I wasn't there, obviously, but that's what is talked about.
I mean, that seems to be what happened.
Yeah, which is just awful. And I'm glad that team in Warner Brothers is gone. You have Walter Hamada in there now, who's I think is a genius. Hasn't made a bad movie yet as the president of DC Films. He's a producer. He used to work with James Wan on the Conjuring movies, and he's done a great job. He works very close with Jim Lee now too, who is obviously, if you read comics, you know who Jim Lee is. Very iconic DC artist and writer. So they're in good hands now, and they are rectifying that mistake by releasing the Snyder Cut. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that movie is all sorts of trouble. I gave Birds of Prey a 7 out of 10. I'm looking at my review right now.
7 out of 10. I think I gave it 3.5 also in my my Letterboxd, which does not make me an official film critic, but I love Letterboxd. Shout out.
Would definitely,
please follow me.
Yes, Letterboxd. I would definitely be inclined to rewatch it, to give it a rewatch and talk about it on the show. I love Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. So yeah, Kieran, are you excited about the Snyder Cut? How do you feel about it? You had the same Justice League experience with me, so I'd like to hear what you think.
I saw it the first time, and I never saw it after that intentionally, because, and I'm gonna finish that thought, then I have another follow up thought too.
Go for it.
I'm just organizing my thoughts in my head, but I saw it the first time, and I was like, okay, I liked it. I don't need to watch it again because I saw the bad reviews come in. Then I remember after we went to see it, because we saw it before the critic came out, and we left before the theater. We left being so excited on the way back. We're like, this movie is actually good. This is crazy. And then when the reviews came in, I remember you were so sad. You like sent me a text message and you were like, what? And like the Rotten Tomatoes.
I mean, you got to cut us some slack. I mean, we were riding like the craziest high. I just met Superman. He signed my cape, which is hanging up right here that you can't see because I'm not going to take it down. I don't like touching it because I don't want it to fade. But I mean, I had the best night of my life. Of course, I was. They could have shown me anything, and I would have said it was the best thing I've ever seen. I was 18. You know, I was 18, a big nerd.
And see, because we enjoyed it, then when the campaign came out for release the Snyder Cut, right? Because of us seeing it and initially liking it until the critic response came in, right? There was a mix of that, and there was also a mix of within the Snyder Cut movement, at least early on, there was a very vocal minority of toxic people who were kind of like bullying certain stars or people involved in the movie. And they gave that whole movement a very bad rap, even though I understand that later on they raised money for all these causes and stuff, right?
Yeah, so, it's not really fair, but I mean, there was that segment of that fandom for sure. But I also would argue that a lot of fandoms have that, and it's a bummer, and it gives people a bad taste. Like Star Wars, you know, Rick and Morty, other pop culture things have very vocal, toxic group of people, and it's a bummer. But I do think that the Snyder Cut movement, they weren't resemblant of what it was. It was really just people who liked that man, who loved that man's work and felt like he got wronged. And he did. I really do think he got wronged. And he's getting his justice, pun intended.
I feel like to some extent they check themselves very fast. You know, they check their own fellow members very fast. And that's a good thing for them to have done, because I feel like that's what ultimately won them the movie they wanted, because they were going about it in a way that was actually positive, right?
They were having petition days on Twitter. They raised a bunch of money for a suicide prevention charity, because the terrible tragedy that had Zack Snyder leave the movie was his daughter passed away. And it's so sad. But even him himself, he's releasing Zack Snyder's Justice League t-shirts and sending all proceeds to that stuff. And it's become a really positive thing. But yeah, you have to mention that in the beginning, it was kind of maligned. They would attack people and people would be like, oh, these toxic nerd, like they were a joke. And then they got angry and it was a whole big mess. I'm glad now feels like the mainstream conscience has come around to it. And they're like, yeah, let's see it. Let's see what he's got. I never really truly, like, I didn't sign any of those petitions, not because I was kind of just curious to see if it would happen. Right. I was a third party. I was very much a third party observer with no stakes in it. Right. But having watched Man of Steel, which again, I hadn't seen since it originally came out, I feel like I now get it. Yeah. Which is kind of cool, because I feel like you're probably, I'm going to assume you're infinitely more excited for the Snyder Cut to see what he was going to pay off with those two movies.
Yeah, it definitely had that effect. But like, even I can see now how people were able to sit in that movie and be like, this is not Zack Snyder's movie, you know? Whereas before, remember we were driving home, we're like, oh, maybe this part was Zack, this part was Joss, this part was Zack.
It became very apparent. I've seen it a couple times, what's what, and you can really really easily tell.
Yeah.
That's when I argue like the fundamentals of the film is bad. Like there will be the scene where Bruce is talking to Arthur for the first time when Bruce rides to the Arctic. It's like one of the opening scenes of the movie. There are shots where Bruce like gains and loses weight because they were reshoots. And if you know anything about Ben Affleck's workout regimen for Zack Snyder, the dude was a tank. He was huge in BVS. There's shots of him just doing CrossFit, I think, because Ben Affleck's like, I just look incredible. And he wasn't fat by any means, but he wasn't in that great. He wasn't in that shape. I mean, that's like a shape that's impossible to maintain. That's why you go crazy for 3 months to shoot the movie and then you chill out, Ben Affleck can't look like that 24/7. That would be impossible. And he would like destroy himself doing that. So when they did the reshoots, he looked, more like a human being. And there you can just obviously tell the difference. Sidetrack.
I think the thing I'm more excited about than anything, I'm excited about the movie itself, but I'm just excited. This is gonna change movies forever, I think.
100%.
This idea, it's kind of revolutionary for people to say, "Oh, I really didn't like that cut of the movie. Can you remake this movie that already exists?" That's essentially what's happening. It's cool.
I think there's so much more extraneous circumstances to this specific film. It wouldn't, if it was just like some movie and there wasn't this much drama, but Justice League should have been a humongous film. It's Justice League. It's Batman, Superman, The Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Cyborg's not that big of a character, but like these are titans of pop culture.
He's pretty big. He's not like the original lineup of Justice League, but because of Teen Titans,
And the rumors are that Snyder's adding Green Lantern into the film too, which I'm all in for. That'd be sweet.
Crazy.
Yeah. But this movie should have been huge. At the very least, should have been like 800 million, and it made like six. It was like one of the lowest grossing DC films because just the behind the scenes drama leaked. Everyone knew it was a mess. And it came out opening weekend and the reviews weren't great, and most people were like, meh. And it's just a bummer. And I think it's a bummer too because a lot of people who are vocal about not liking Zack's Superman, the original idea was that he was going to go through this process of death and resurrection, and by the end of Justice League, he was going to be Superman. He was going to go from the Man of Steel to the Superman, to he has become himself. And I'm hoping that happens in the Snyder Cut, and then we'll get into our fandom speculation in a few minutes that we get a little bit more Superman to our taste. But closing thoughts on the Snyder Cut, the DC films we watched, how you're feeling, and then we'll take a little break and come back.
My closing thoughts, I think that Zack Snyder's DC movies are very much like anime and like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where it's one of those things where you either fully commit to it and love it, or you're questioning it the entire time in your head and you decide you don't like it. It's one of those things where you have to be a person. There's nothing wrong with being one way or the other, but you just have to be somebody who's you just go with it. You just fully go with it. Yeah.
They're not necessarily for everyone, but they are movies that exist. And I think if you give them a fair shake, you will, especially Man of Steel, will come out of it feeling a lot different than you did years ago watching it. But with that, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some DC Fandome speculation. Thanks for listening.
I'm gonna restock my tea. Okay. So
go for
it. I'm just organizing my thoughts in my head. But I saw it the first time, and I was like, okay, I liked it. I don't need to watch it again because I saw the bad reviews come in. Then I remember after we went to see it because we saw it before the critic came out, and we left the theater. We left being so excited on the way back. We're like, this movie is actually good. This is crazy. And then when the reviews came in, I remember you were so sad. You sent me a text message and you were like, what? And the Rotten Tomatoes score,
you got to cut us some slack. We were riding the craziest high. I just met Superman. He signed my cape, which is hanging up right here that you can't see because I'm not going to take it down. I don't like touching it because I don't want it to fade. But I had the best night of my life. Of course, they could have shown me anything, and I would have said it was the best thing I've ever seen. I was 18, I was 18, a big nerd.
And see, because we enjoyed it, then when the campaign came out for release the Snyder Cut, right? because of that, because of us seeing it and initially liking it until the critic response came in, right? There was a mix of that, and there was also a mix of within the Snyder Cut movement, at least early on, there was a very vocal minority of toxic people who were kind of like bullying certain stars or people involved in the movie, and they gave that whole movement a very bad rap. Even though I understand that later on, they raise money for all these causes and stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
it's not really fair, but I mean, there was that segment of that fandom for sure. But I also would argue that a lot of fandoms have that, and it's a bummer, and it gives people a bad taste. Like Star Wars, Rick and Morty, other pop culture things have very vocal, toxic group of people, and it's a bummer. But I do think that the Snyder Cut movement, they weren't resemblant of what it was. It was really just people who liked that man, who loved that man's work and felt like he got wronged. And he did. I really do think he got wronged. And he's getting his justice, pun intended.
I feel like to some extent they check themselves very fast. They check their own fellow members very fast. And that's a good thing for them to have done, because I feel like that's what ultimately won them the movie they wanted, because they were going about it in a way that was actually positive, right?
They were having petition days on Twitter.
Yeah.
They raised a bunch of money for a suicide prevention charity, because the terrible tragedy that had Zack Snyder leave the movie was his daughter passed away. And it's so sad, but even him himself, he's releasing Zack Snyder's Justice League t-shirts and sending all proceeds to that stuff. And it's become a really positive thing. But yeah, you have to mention that in the beginning, it was kind of maligned. They would attack people, and people would be like, oh, these toxic nerd, like they were a joke. And then they got angry, and it was a whole big mess. I'm glad now feels like the mainstream conscience has come around to it, and they're like, yeah, let's see it. Let's see what he's got. I never really truly, like, I didn't sign any of those petitions, not because I was kind of just curious to see if it would happen, right? I was a third party. I was very much a third party observer with no stakes in it, right? But having watched Man of Steel, which again, I hadn't seen since it originally came out, I feel like I now get it. Yeah. Which is kind of cool, because I feel like you're probably, I'm going to assume you're infinitely more excited for the Snyder Cut to see what he was going to pay off with those two movies. Yeah,
it definitely had that effect. But like even I can see now how people were able to sit in that movie and be like, this is not Zack Snyder's movie, Whereas before, I remember we were driving home, we're like, oh, maybe this part was Zack, this part was Joss, this part was Zack.
It became very apparent. I've seen it a couple times, what's what, and you can really, really easily tell.
Yeah.
That's when I argue like the fundamentals of the film is bad. Like there will be the scene where Bruce is talking to Arthur for the first time when Bruce rides to the Arctic. It's like one of the opening scenes of the movie. There are shots where Bruce like gains and loses weight because they were reshoots. And if you know anything about Ben Affleck's workout regimen for Zack Snyder, the dude was a tank. He was huge in BVS. There's shots of him just doing CrossFit, I think, because Ben Affleck's like, I just look incredible. And he wasn't fat by any means, but he wasn't in that great. He wasn't in that shape. I mean, that's like a shape that's impossible to maintain. That's why you go crazy for 3 months to shoot the movie and then you chill out. Ben Affleck can't look like that 24/7. That would be impossible. And he would like destroy himself doing that. So when they did the reshoots, he looked, more like a human being. And there you can just obviously tell the difference. Sidetrack.
I think the thing I'm more excited about than anything, I'm excited about the movie itself, but I'm just excited. This is going to change movies forever, I think.
100%.
This idea, it's kind of revolutionary for people to say, oh, I really didn't like that cut of the movie. Can you remake this movie that already exists? That's essentially what's happening. It's cool.
I think there's so much more extraneous circumstances to this specific film. It wouldn't, if it was just like some movie and there wasn't this much drama, but Justice League should have been a humongous film. It's Justice League. It's Batman, Superman, The Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Cyborg's not that big of a character, but like these are titans of pop culture.
He's pretty big. He's not like the original lineup of Justice League, but because of Teen Titans,
And the rumors are that Snyder's adding Green Lantern into the film too, which I'm all in for. That'd be sweet.
Crazy.
Yeah. But this movie should have been huge. At the very least, should have been like 800 million, and it made like six. It was like one of the lowest grossing DC films because just the behind the scenes drama leaked. Everyone knew it was a mess. And it came out opening weekend and the reviews weren't great, and most people were like, meh.
Yeah.
And it's just a bummer. And I think it's a bummer too because a lot of people who are vocal about not liking Zack's Superman, the original idea was that he was going to go through this process of death and resurrection, and by the end of Justice League, he was going to be Superman. He was going to go from the Man of Steel to the Superman, to he has become himself. And I'm hoping that happens in the Snyder Cut, and then, we'll get into our fandom speculation in a few minutes that we get a little bit more Superman to our taste. But closing thoughts on the Snyder Cut, the DC films we watched, how you're feeling, and then we'll take a little break and come back.
My closing thoughts, I think that Zack Snyder's DC movies are very much like anime and like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where it's one of those things where you either fully commit to it and love it, or you're questioning it the entire time in your head and you decide you don't like it. It's one of those things where you have to be a person. There's nothing wrong with being one way or the other, but you just have to be somebody who's you just go with it. You just fully go with it. Yeah.
They're not necessarily for everyone, but they are movies that exist. And I think if you give them a fair shake, you will, especially Man of Steel, will come out of it feeling a lot different than you did years ago watching it. But with that, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some DC Fandome speculation. Thanks for listening.
I'm going to restock my tea.
Hello, he got more tea. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the first episode of the new adventures of K-Man and Spence. We just spent almost an hour nerding out about some Zack Snyder stuff, just, setting the table for what we're about to talk about now, which is...
Was that an hour?
It was like 45 minutes, yeah.
Oh, man, okay. We were shooting for an hour for this show, but I guess, we're going to go over that, but whatever.
You can't stop the nerd train, baby.
Yeah.
So we are going to now segue into probably the main topic of today, which is this Saturday, the big daddy of them all, DC Fandome is happening. It's DC's virtual Comic-Con. And there's a lot of movies at this convention, a lot of TV shows, a lot of cool comics news, hopefully some stuff confirmed that has been speculated and rumored for a while. But I'm just going to go through each panel, and we'll give our little thoughts. I'm sure we'll talk about some more than others.
Yeah. Quick thing to add to that, right? Mm-hmm. Before we fully go into it, like, what would be your number one thing if it happened? What's the thing before we go into what's the thing that you want most to happen?
That it doesn't have a panel, something that could just happen.
Yeah. Just like
my dream announcement would be a Superman solo film with Henry Cavill, for sure.
Okay. Cool.
That would be unparalleled. That would be what I want. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's not on the guest list, which to me is a good thing, because it'd be a whole big surprise if he showed up and was like, "Hey guys, I'm Henry Cavill and I'm going to do another Superman movie." That was my Henry Cavill impression. That was probably terrible.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I have heard him talk in person one time. And I said, "Henry, can you sign my cape?" And he said, "Sure, mate." And he signed my cape and walked away.
You're his mate.
He did call me mate. Yes.
That's cool.
I guess we're boys.
You can just casually in conversation be like, "Oh yeah, I'm Henry Cavill's mate." Yeah.
Henry, if you're listening, hit me up, man. We can hang out sometime. Grab a beer. It'll be nice.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's go. Oh wait, really fast. My
Oh yes.
Ultimate.
Sorry.
Yes.
Cut you off.
No, you're good. You're chilling. My ultimate would be something totally unexpected that hasn't been rumored. That's what I want from this. I want something. I want there to be some announcement of some new TV show, new movie, something along those lines. That's just like, whoa.
You haven't heard anything about.
Yeah, something small. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
okay.
Let's do panel to panel.
You want the unexpected. I like that.
I want the unexpected, and like just like when I'm reading comics, I always like the very niche stuff. And so if there's an announcement of something weird and niche like that'll be cool. I'm in for that. Yeah. I'm all in for that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I'd be with you on that. So the first panel, if you're on West Coast time at 10 a.m. airing, will be the Wonder Woman 1984 panel, a movie that was supposed to come out already.
Yeah.
So we've already gotten a handful of trailers. I don't know what else they're going to show us.
That's a weird choice. I guess you have to keep it in the public mind.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it, but it seems like that's a waste of a time slot.
How much more can they show us without spoiling the movie? You know, I feel
like
there's been a handful of trailers already. Yeah.
I don't want to see any more till I see it.
We haven't seen Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, so they might release like a still of that. But I mean, maybe.
But do you want to see that? Because I know I don't.
Not really. Because I know in the movie, I mean, we've seen her in the trailers as the Doctor before she becomes Cheetah. So we know she's playing Cheetah. Everyone knows that. I think it's in the casting. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be like upset if we got like a still of her and Cheetah or like a scene. Actually, I don't want to see a clip. I wouldn't want to see a clip of Wonder Woman and Cheetah. That would be kind of a bummer. I'd rather see that.
I
like a still of her in the Cheetah outfit or kind of CG'd up. I don't know how they're going to do it as Cheetah. I would be not for or against. If it came out, I would look at it. I wouldn't like avoid it, but.
Well, I know they stopped part of Kristen Wiig's contract for doing the movie was that she was not allowed to post pictures of herself in the Cheetah costume, and they were keeping it very much like on the down low. It would be a shame if they ruined that at this point just because of the crazy circumstances that led to this release being delayed.
Sure.
That'd be my take on that entire panel, really. I just want to I wish they weren't doing it at all. I would hate to be Patty Jenkins right now having to fill up that kind of a time slot without giving away your whole movie. It's difficult. Definitely.
It is. But it says they're going to answer questions from fans. Expected. It's a panel. Talk fan art and cosplay, and reveal an all-new sneak peek at the upcoming film. Okay, so we'll get like something more. I think it's fun that they're just going to come on and talk about like fan stuff. Like, hey, movie's supposed to come out already, so what's new? This person has cool Wonder Woman cosplay. I think that's kind of fun.
I hope that we get the sequel to Gal Gadot singing Imagine.
Oh, please no.
I hope that that's just the panel.
If you are a WB executive right now, for the love of God, don't do that. Don't do that. The next panel at 10:25 a.m. in the Hall of Heroes is what they're calling it, which is like Hall H, I'm imagining. Same type of thing. This is WB Games Montreal, and this is what a lot of people are speculating is going to be the announcement of the new Batman game, the new Rocksteady Batman game. That is heavily rumored. The domain was purchased, so all but confirmed the game's going to be called Batman Gotham Knights. But like,
what? Really?
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
I thought this was. I'm getting them mixed up with the Suicide Squad game.
That's later. That's coming too.
Okay. Gotcha.
But this is what that's supposed to be. I haven't read up much about it. I'm not too big of a gamer. I feel like you're more in that scene than I am, Kieran. I've played the first two Arkham games. I didn't play the other ones.
Yeah,
I enjoyed them. I just don't. I'm not super patient in games. Take a good amount of patience to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a history of gaming. I wouldn't really call myself a big gamer anymore because I'm the same way that I now watch TV and watch movies a lot more just because games are a very long experience. I've never completed an Arkham game, but I've played them. And that's for a whole different reason. It's nothing got to do. It's just got to do with the kind of game they are, where like it's very linear, and so I remember I just got really bored when I was younger, but I did enjoy what I played of those games. I'm fascinated to see first of all the new Batman game. It's not being made by the original team, so that's, but also the one that came out, Arkham Origins, that was not made by Rocksteady. I think that was a little bit noticeably worse than the past one and the one that came after it.
It's pretty like the conventional wisdom is it's the worst one.
Yeah. So I hope that this game is revolutionary and bold. There's a new generation of consoles coming. So there could be some really exciting things for Batman with that context. But I mean, I guess in that regard, we just gotta wait and see. As long as they have the same voice cast, I'm here for it. You know, or I'll at least watch a let's play, a little bit of a let's play on YouTube at the very least.
Sure. The speculation is that it's going to be an adaptation of The Court of Owls, which I think could be fun.
Would be so fucking cool.
Yeah, that would be really
awesome.
Cool.
I saw a really great tweet talking about The Court of Owls that I thought really emphasized what makes that Batman villain particularly so good and so scary. It's because they use knives, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times in those comics when Batman is fighting the Court of Owls that he just gets straight up stabbed, they just stab him a lot. And it's like, if you put somebody like Batman who's able to take on Darkseid and stuff, you know, and able to do this like crazy stuff because he's Batman, and then you put him against these guys who don't really look that powerful, but because they're able to basically mess up Batman so much in fights, they're really somebody to fear. Like, they almost kill him several times.
Yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing to bring into a game. And imagine the maze sequence in a video game.
It'd be pretty cool.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
I mean, I'd be all in for that. I, again, don't know if I would play it, but I would definitely watch. I've watched like all the cutscene movies of these games. What's what they call them on YouTube when people just do a super cut of all the cutscenes.
Oh, you've watched them for all the games?
Yeah, I've watched them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
I like Batman. I don't have the patience to play the games, but I think there's some cool
cutscenes
sequences. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But the next panel after that, and that's called the Warner Brothers Games Montreal announcement. So it's probably going to be that. At 10:45, we have the Sandman universe Enter the Dreaming panel, which has Neil Gaiman and all the people who've worked on Sandman, how it's been expanded with new stories, adapted into new mediums, and enthralled audiences around the world. And this is a 30-minute panel. So that sounds fun. I have not read Sandman, and I want to. I've heard nothing but great things, but that has been a title I've not gotten to. And I like Neil Gaiman a lot.
Me neither. I have not. I'm not that familiar with Sandman.
Yeah. I know that they were doing an adaptation with Joseph Gordon-Levitt a couple of years ago. They announced that, and I mean, he's a great actor.
Oh,
but there hasn't been any word on that moving, so I imagine that was probably something that got put to the wayside when DC had their big shifts in films and stuff. But I mean, I would watch that movie. I do intend to read Sandman. I want to. I've heard nothing but great things. I almost bought the omnibus a couple months ago on a really bored quarantine night, and I said, I haven't read this. I've heard nothing but great things. The omnibus was on sale. I was like, should I just do it? Should I just instead of just reading it, just buy the big like $40, $50 book and just pound it? I have nothing else going on. I didn't, but now that I've reintroduced that idea, I may do that.
You should. I love a good omnibus. Yeah,
and you can read it too.
Maybe
we'll go in on that.
Yeah, the Deadly Class omnibus is really good. I lent it to a friend of mine, and I think he's definitely not like near us right now because of coronavirus, so he'd have to mail it to me, which is the only question. But whenever I do inevitably get that, then you can read that too because that's really good. Yeah. But anyway, so Sandman, I don't have comments on Sandman because I just haven't read it. Yeah,
but that's happening. After that is something I'm very excited about, which is Multiverse 101. And this is the description is get schooled in this engaging refresher course on the creation of the multiverse with DC Chief Creative Officer / publisher Jim Lee, who is, we talked about a little bit earlier, is like a titan. If you're a fan of DC Comics, he's a big deal. Warner Brothers Pictures president of DC-based film production, Walter Hamada, who I talked about when DC executives changed hands and they haven't made a bad movie. Walter Hamada's been in charge of everything post-Justice League, and I've been a fan of everything, so... And then Greg Berlanti, who CW is Berlanti. If you know the CW verse, The Flash and Arrow, and those shows are all kind of his baby. Supergirl, Batwoman.
Shout out to those shows because what they did is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I wish that I could. I started watching Arrow. I watched the first season of Arrow when it was on TV because it was a big deal. I was like, oh, a DC show, and they do make him Batman.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I haven't been able to get into the Flash, and it's a bummer. As a DC guy, that I just something about the CW like thing it's just I remember when Tyler Hoechlin was cast as Superman, and I like Tyler Hoechlin. One of my favorite movies is the Richard Linklater film Everybody Wants Some, and he's great in it.
Mm-hmm.
But they just look cheap, and I'm trying not to come off like pretentious, like only like movie quality Superman. Like I want anyone to be able to tell a Superman story if they can.
Yeah.
But I just find it hard to get into. And that was the case. But like with Arrow, you could do Arrow on a low TV budget. There's not a lot of superpower there.
Mm-hmm.
But the Flash, you lost me a bit.
Dude, the Flash is.
But I did watch Crisis. I watched Crisis.
Yeah, but I would say to you that without a doubt, like Arrow season 1, I enjoyed, but also that's very much when they were trying to find their stride. You know. Mm-hmm. They were trying to figure it out. Arrow season 2 is, in my memory, a very perfect season of television because in season 2, you watched season 1, right?
Yeah.
In season 1, they introduced in the flashback, they set up Slade Wilson, right?
Yeah.
And then in season 2, he's the bad guy of the whole thing. And he's fantastic. It's an Australian actor. He does a great job. Manu Bennett's his name. He does a really good job.
I remember his name, yeah.
Yeah. And then also from season 2, they introduced Barry Allen in season 2. And then you kind of get his origin story, and then it goes off into The Flash. And The Flash, again, is a network TV show, so it takes a little bit of time to find its bearings. But about halfway through the first season, I mean, spoilers, but like it's the show's years old.
This is old television.
So if I spoil halfway through the first season when there's like 7 seasons now, then it's like whatever, right? But halfway through the first season, because I watched that show live from the point it aired, and I'm not caught up on it anymore, but I the first 4 seasons I watched with my friend in their entirety. And halfway through the first season is when you really get into it, when he travels back in time by accident for the first time. Like, it's great. It's fantastic. And you're like, it's totally out of left field. They don't really set it up all that much, although they kind of do. They do in a way where you're like, oh, wow, they're actually doing this. And then you get into the multiverse and they do all of that stuff. That's the best on-screen adaptation of the multiverse so far. And in Crisis on Infinite Earth, whenever they do the crossovers every year, I was never really a big fan of those, just because they were trying to push a lot into a very small time frame. But they're ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous, and they have all. I
watched the most recent one because they did like 1989 Batman, and they even had a cameo of Burt Ward as Robin from the Adam West series. And I heard they were doing all this, and I said, I'll watch. This seems silly and dumb, and I'll watch it. And it was entertaining.
They had a Titans cameo in the first 5 minutes. Crazy. That was so cool.
You had Brandon Routh returned as like Kingdom Come Superman. They had a whole cool thing going on there. And Ezra Miller as the Flash, which we'll talk about in a second.
I wouldn't assess the entire show based on the crossover, though, because that's like later on the season. They're trying to put a lot of characters and arcs together at the same time, and it's always going to be a little bit of a cluster. I would say give the Flash a chance at some point, to you and to listeners out there, because it's a little bit of a commitment, I guess. Like, at least watch the first season of the Flash and then make your mind up. It's one of those shows.
I mean, what else are you doing?
Start. Exactly. If you're listening, if you're spending at this point like an hour and a half, whatever we're into this podcast at the moment, you can put 45 minutes to a TV show.
Sure.
You're probably interested.
Yeah. No, I would agree. But so this panel has the Jim Lee, who is a DC like god. He knows everything. You have someone like that on with the head of DC Films and basically the head of DC TV, talking about the multiverse. We just heard a couple months ago that Michael Keaton may be reprising his role. I mean, it's all but confirmed, as Batman from the Burtonverse, my favorite on-screen Batman, in The Flash, which has been rumored to be titled Flashpoint. I imagine we'll find out on Saturday what it's actually called. But Kieran, is this panel gonna confirm what's been rumored for a long time, which is that DC is gonna take a step that they will effectively beat Marvel to, which is everything's connected. We're doing the multiverse, the CW verse, the Snyderverse, like every movie that they're gonna do, they're just gonna connect, and they're gonna have the different Earths. And I think, when you have a panel, if this is rumored for a long time, when you have a panel that leads into the Flash, which would most likely be the first. I mean, it's going to be the first movie to do this. It's got Michael Keaton in it as Batman. I mean, you can't do that and not have the multiverse.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say though, right? What I noticed on the interface of the physical website for the link you sent me, there's no icon for Multiverse 101.
Yeah.
Versus for the Suicide Squad, for example, or for the really big ones, Legacy of the Bat, those have little logos on them.
Yeah.
I feel like having like
I think we're gonna get a logo.
Maybe, but like this is a Comic-Con type panel, and Comic-Con has a lot of content that's just like not quite filler, but it's just for people who don't need the big stuff. They just kind of want some smaller stuff to watch, like about making comics. I feel like my prediction is that Multiverse 101 is just establishing the idea, you know? It's just talking about how you take an idea like the multiverse, because I'm sure they will announce Flashpoint, especially because introducing Flash is the
next panel with director Andy Muschietti and Ezra Miller.
Yeah. And they've done a really Greg Berlanti is on the multiverse panel. They've done a really good job of establishing the whole multiverse idea in the TV show. So I feel like that's just going to give us an idea of, okay, here's what the multiverse is. And then if they go into the Flash, which by 11, it says 11:15 a.m. for Multiverse 101 and 11:40 for introducing the Flash. So like, that's a very short panel. So that seems like it would just be a segue into the Flash. Now here's I'm going to jump ahead a teensy bit. I apologize for that, but I just saw this myself, right? Because introducing Flash is the next one, but then Beyond Batman, that's what they call it. After Multiverse, is there going to be a Batman Beyond announcement?
I mean, we'll read about it when we get there, but I mean, that was where everyone's head immediately went when Michael Keaton was returning to the role was, oh, they're going to do Batman Beyond. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, if you're bringing in Keaton, like the OG Batman, besides Adam West, but like the OG cinematic Batman, like the one who made Batman dark in the public conscious, the Tim Burton films. If you're going to bring him back in his 60s, do Batman Beyond. There was a rumor for a while that they're going to do Batman Beyond, but instead of Terry McGinnis, it's going to be Barbara Gordon, and it's going to be Batgirl, and that's how they're going to do Batgirl in a Batman Beyond style. That could be interesting.
That would be so cool.
That'd be really cool. I'd be all here for it. Again, rumor, and if you're in like the DC fan community on the internet, and especially on like DC Twitter, you get a new crazy rumor every day. So who really knows? A lot of it at this point is just like Reddit and 4chan leaks. If you're listening to this, that was me doing air quotes. They're fan fiction is what they really are half the time. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say they were fun to read. They're fun to read.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think that you have basically the head of DC Comics, the head of DC Comics film, and the head of DC Comics TV on a panel together for 30 minutes, introducing the multiverse, called Multiverse 101, immediately followed up by a film which has multiverse written all over it with Michael Keaton returning to play Bruce Wayne. And then you have a Beyond Batman panel afterwards. I mean, we'll get there. I'm not sure what the extent of Beyond Batman is. It might just be like a legacy Batman.
Yeah.
Panel. But I think that's what it is. I think it's going to be them saying, you're going to have Jim Lee explain the multiverse in the comics. Then Walter Hamada and Greg Berlanti are going to go, it's all connected. Because Ezra Miller is in Crisis. And everyone thought that was a throwaway cameo. But there's a line in his appearance in Crisis with Grant Gustin where Grant goes, you're Barry. He's like, what? And they're both freaking out. And Ezra goes, Victor said this was possible. And I think that scene, I'm not kidding, is going to be in the Flash movie. And it's going to be, Ezra's going to be running through like different universes. And that scene is going to literally be played out from his perspective. Because it's been confirmed Ray Fisher's in the Flash. Ray Fisher is Cyborg in the Flash. He's going to be in the Flash with him.
Yeah.
I really think that they're fully doing it. I think it's such a great idea. I mean, Affleck wanted out as Batman, and you have Robert Pattinson, which seems to be kind of its own thing. We'll talk about it when we get to that panel, but that seems to be kind of its isolated own thing, kind of like a Nolan type trilogy. But if you're doing the multiverse, if you feel like it, you can bring Robert Pattinson in. You're basically just freeing yourself from the binds of, and yeah, it's a big swing, and it's like gonna be kind of crazy for a non-comic book reader, But Joker came out last year and it made $1 billion. Nobody questioned, oh, this isn't Jared Leto. No one said anything. It made $1 billion.
Is J.K. Simmons coming back for Snyder Cut? Do you know if that's the case? He is.
I mean, he was. I imagine Zach cast him as Gordon.
Yeah. So they have 2 actors in their universe right now, 2 pretty high tier actors who are playing the Commissioner Gordons of different universes, because you got your Snyder Cut, J.K. Simmons, Oscar winning actor. And then you got, I'm losing his name right now, but he's in Westworld. The guy who's going to play, I think his first name is Jeffrey something.
Yeah, and Matt Reeves is the Batman.
Yeah, Matt Reeves Batman. He's also like a pretty well-known actor. He was in Bond movies. He was in a whole bunch of other stuff. Jeffrey Wright. He was in Westworld and stuff. He's also playing Commissioner Gordon. I mean, and with a multiverse panel, and with all the rumors circulating, there's really no doubt in my mind whatsoever that there is going to be multiverse stuff, especially with the success of Joker, because Joker is also a multiverse story.
It is. It's an Elseworlds thing.
I think you're I will buy you a milkshake if Grant Gustin appears at any point in any sense whatsoever in Flashpoint, because I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm telling you, dude, that scene is going to play out from Ezra Miller's perspective. Why would he say drop Victor in the scene,
because
and now we're hearing that they're. I'm sorry, I'm excited, but now we're doing like the. It makes all the sense in the world.
I agree with you halfway. I agree with you it makes all the sense in the world. I agree with you that line is going to be part of an explanation for why he makes the cameo in The Flash, right? But I think it's going to be more like a thing of, when he's going around the universes, he accidentally goes into that universe, but that's going to be like an off-screen thing that happens. And it's going to be just kind of a thing of, if you watch that, and if you watch the episode The Flash, you're like, that makes sense. That makes sense now. But just because it's a film, because I'm sure they're trying to make like an actual film, not just a movie with Flashpoint, because that seems to be what DC's vibe is, to make like actual like artistic movies somewhat. I think that would be way too much of a tonal shift to go into the CW style all of a sudden, or to go into that universe, just because it seems a lot more like a TV set, you know?
I don't think he'll spend an extended period of time in that universe at all.
Yeah.
I think it'll just be that's just that wink and the nod saying, hey, multiverse, this exists. Because if you're going into they've already confirmed that Michael Keaton is playing Burtonverse Batman. He's not doing another role, and it's just like a wink and a nod of, look, it's Michael Keaton. No, he's literally playing Bruce Wayne from the 2 Burton Batman movies. So you're if that is confirmed, which I think it will be on Saturday, you're already doing it. You're bridging 2 movie universes.
I really want Jeffrey Dean Morgan to come back though, as Thomas Wayne.
He would have been a great Thomas Wayne Batman, and I love Thomas Wayne Batman.
He said he's still interested though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is really going to be a Flashpoint adaptation. I think they're using that. I think Barry's going to run back in time to try and save his mom and prove his dad's innocence. That's a plot line introduced in Justice League. When he visits his dad, and he like gets a job at the end as at the crime lab. Like, he becomes, Barry Allen at the end of Justice League. And I think he's going to run back in time. I don't necessarily think Reverse Flash will be in it. He could be. Yeah, I think the flashpoint of the movie, if they do call it that, will just be the basic thing of he runs back in time to try and stop the murder of his mother and prove his dad's innocence. It just, like, pardon my French, but fucks up everything.
Yeah.
Runs into the Burtonverse and goes, what? Or rewrites I don't want to say rewrites the timeline. I'd rather the Burtonverse just exist and not be an alternate timeline. That'd be really cool if he just runs into the Burtonverse. Because what was talked about when Keaton was originally kind of announced that the news broke that he might be in it, was that he's going to be like Nick Fury of the multiverse, and that for like the last 30 years he's been like figuring all this out, because Bruce Wayne is brilliant in those 2 movies. He's like a super smart, like, weirdo. He's like a social loner, and it's definitely an interesting take on Bruce Wayne, but it's like, it was like the defining portrayal for a long time. And that Barry's going to run through the multiverse, and Michael Keaton's just going to be like standing there in a suit, and he's going to go, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm Bruce." He goes, and Barry's going to be like, "No, you're not." It's like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "No, Bruce is," I bet you he makes a joke, "Bruce is taller and way more buff." And he goes, "That's also Bruce, but I'm Bruce too." And then he just kind of explains it all, and is like, "I figured it out."
I'm here for it, but that would be crazy.
It would be nuts. It'd be nuts.
If they did that directly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm down. I do want to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan though too, because I love the Thomas Wayne Batman costume just in general. I love the alternate.
And he would look fantastic.
Like he would look so cool.
I mean, he looks incredible as the comedian in Watchmen.
Yeah.
So he'd be perfect for.
Did you ever see that deleted scene from Justice League from the original cut? They put it on the Blu-ray release, I think, and it was Barry Allen saving Iris, and they like casted Iris and shot a whole scene with her.
No, but I imagine that'll be reinstilled in the Snyder cut. That was a Snyder scene they cut.
Yeah, it was just like a slow motion thing of like he's saving her from a car accident or something like that, and then he's like, I think that might be the first time they meet. I'm not sure what the context is because I don't think the clip gives the full context. But yeah, like there's a lot they can do, basically. I think we should move on to the next panel because there's just so much to talk about. But like there's definitely a lot of options, and I'm excited for all of them.
I think that discussion probably covered the Flash as well, of what the Flash panel is going to look like. But director Andy Muschietti and his wife, who produced his films, Barbara Muschietti, Ezra Miller, and then the writer of Birds of Prey, who is also writing The Flash, Christina Hodson, will give fans a speedy rundown on the first ever Flash feature film. This panel is only 10 minutes, so that's very interesting. I mean, the movie hasn't entered production yet, so they probably don't have a lot to show. I think they'll probably just, as I've said a million times in this episode, I think they're going to bridge off the multiverse and go, hey, so this is going to be the first entry where we're really going for that. And who knows, maybe Michael Keaton pops up for a minute. That'd be freaking awesome.
The cool thing about Zoom is, or whatever they're doing it through video conference, it's so easy to do that, you know?
Yeah.
No, I don't care if you live in Hollywood or you're like a big shot, you're still not doing anything right now. Nobody is, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So, perfect timing.
So the Beyond Batman panel is the next one at 11:50 a.m. West Coast time. And it's not what we thought it was at all, but the Batman of swinging 60s culture clashes with the Batman of the far-flung future when Batman Beyond and his old mentor, old Bruce Wayne, intercept a broadcast of the 1966 Batman show. So is that going to be like animated, you think?
Wait, what is this? Is this an announcement for something?
Yeah, so it's saying like Batman Beyond and his mentor, old Bruce Wayne, intercept a broadcast of the 1966 Batman TV show. So I think it's going to be like almost like an intermission little bit, or Batman Beyond like gets a paid like a multiverse thing of 60s like Adam West.
So okay, so like probably the original cartoon, the original Batman Beyond cartoon.
I imagine this will be animated. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
cool.
Maybe they do that they do some sort of announcement with that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe old Bruce Wayne is being voiced by Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And they talk about it. That'd be cool.
We should casually start watching some Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah, I
feel like that'd be a good one. Yeah, because I've been wanting to go back to that. I watched a bunch of YouTube clips recently. It's great. Like that's a great premise, and I really want to see them use that in a live action capacity. So
it's wonderful.
If it's animated, amazing. But also if there's any hint whatsoever to like something live action Batman Beyond coming out, like also very, very, very down for that.
After that, we have at 11:55 a.m. the Suicide Squad panel, which is super cool. But here is the pitch for it. What else would you expect from the Suicide Squad but the ultimate elimination game? First up, writer-director James Gunn takes on fan questions, then brings out the whole cast, Task Force X, for a fast-paced, no-holds-barred squad showdown that tests every team member's squad knowledge and survival skills. 30 minutes. So this is going to be like a fun like fan question, then they're going to play a game. And it'll just probably be really entertaining to watch. Everyone in that movie is really likable. And
Pete Davidson is joining the DCEU. That's very exciting. I'm very excited for this.
Idris Elba, all of these people. I imagine Margot Robbie will be there because Harley Quinn's in this movie too.
Yeah.
This is a movie that I haven't heard a lot about, but I'm obviously very excited. And there's been a lot of talk that we're going to get the first trailer for the movie because the movie's shot. It's done shooting. And it's coming out next year, hopefully.
I'm 100% like on my own personal basis, and you're not going to agree with this, but I'm 100% more excited for the Suicide Squad than the Snyder Cut.
Wow.
I just am because
I get it. James Gunn's
I'm
great.
a big old Marvel boy, whether I like it or not. You know, I think I like to think I'm pretty impartial, but I do love my Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
And I love Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn is a great director, in my opinion.
Guardians 1 is the best MCU film, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that also.
Incredible.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I got a little Star-Lord action figure over there. I love my Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. I have a Groot. I have a Groot in the corner.
Nice.
I'll show in the future. But yeah, like that's so, and Pete Davidson in it, and they're doing it the right way, because I remember we're all obviously really excited for the original Suicide Squad, and the thing that they didn't really capture was the darkness of it, like you said, and they didn't really have a consistent tone. There was no real vision for it. It just seemed like too many cooks in the kitchen yet again, right?
Big mess.
Yeah, but what I love about this, it's got such a big cast of so many A-listers. They're not all going to make it to the end of the movie. There's only a small team of them actually are. There's about like 11 of them right now. Like there's John Cena, Pete Davidson, obviously there's Harley, and some of the characters from the last one, but like Idris Elba's in the two and stuff. I feel like they're going to start with a big team of all of them, and they're going to in the press circles, they're going to advertise them all equally, and then in the first 20 minutes of the movie, like 4 different people are going to die, whether it's through head explosion or whatever, like Polka Dot Man or whatever, right? All these weird ass characters are going to bring in, like, might kick the can, and that's part of the excitement. Like, I'm excited for Pete Davidson. I'm excited for John Cena, Idris Elba, everyone. I'm excited for everyone, really, right?
I forgot John Cena was in this movie.
Yeah, I'm equally excited at the prospect of getting excited for these characters, and then for them to axe them off in the first 2 seconds, because that's what I want from this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
The next panel after the Suicide Squad, which I think we both agree looks great, and I hope we get a trailer. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think in all likelihood we probably will, at least a teaser of some sort.
Mm-hmm. We will. No, it's confirmed. It's confirmed. James
is it?
Confirmed
okay.
it.
Yeah. So we're gonna get some footage, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
But the next panel at 12:40 is the BAWSE, Females of Color Within the DC Universe panel. What's a BAWSE? Find out here as some of the hottest actresses across DC television and film sit down with celebrity DJ D-Nice. That's a fun name. And Grammy-winning singer-actress Estelle to discuss how they use their confidence and vulnerability to navigate their careers in Hollywood. Panelists include Megan Good from Shazam, I'm going to butcher this name, Javicia Leslie from Batwoman, Candace Patton from The Flash, which I imagine is the TV series.
That's Iris. That's Iris in The Flash.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Tala Ash, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Nefessa Williams, and Chantel Toy from Black Lightning, and Anna Diop and Damaris Lewis from Titans. Catch the entire full-length discussion at McDuffie's Dakota and the DC Watchverse. This is 20 minutes long. Sounds nice. Diversity is good. Women of color are underrepresented in everything, so that's exciting that they're getting their own panel. I like
including,
that
including, to be fair, the DCEU. Like the DCEU, I think they're probably working just like Marvel are on diversifying, because they are very white movies. So
oh yeah, for sure,
that's good. We're all for that.
Sadly, a lot of comic book characters are white.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, but c'est la vie, I guess. But I think it's cool that they're going to talk about like navigating their careers. I like this sentence a lot, to discuss how they use their confidence and vulnerability to navigate a career in Hollywood. I think that's actually really important to talk about, just the different experiences. So I'll definitely be listening to that. I think that'll be really interesting.
It's a whole different topic, but I think that also we should take note of that. And at some point in the future, that'd be a great topic to talk about, like casting of people of color in roles and stuff. Because I mean, I for one, I'm all for that, but I also it's a discussion. It's interesting to hear both sides of that. Yeah,
for sure. So that sounds really interesting. There's not a whole lot to say about that, but we'll definitely talk about it when it airs. The next panel at 1 p.m. is the Legacy of the Bat. Calling all Batman fans, don't miss this discussion on the wide scope of the Batman universe, including the Batman family of characters. Key talent from comics, TV, and games will provide insight into the world of the Caped Crusader. 15 minutes. That sounds like a nice little fan thing. Just like here's people talking about what Batman means to them. It's very much like a Comic-Con intermission. There's a bug in my room. If you were watching the video, a bug just flew in my face. So that was fun. But yeah, sounds fun. Any thoughts on that panel, Kieran?
I kind of agree. I think it's the same kind of thing of talking about Batman. I'm sure they'll have some cool guests in there. Maybe Maybe Michael Keaton will make an appearance in that.
That'd be fun.
We'll have some people coming in. Robert Pattinson, is he confirmed showing up in this thing? In this fandom event?
Saw a tweet, but I don't believe Warner Brothers has commented on it yet. I'm sure he will.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You just hop on your phone. He could be on an airplane and just pull up Zoom and do this for like 5 minutes. Who cares?
Yeah, I want Robert Pattinson to show up and just be really awkward because
he is a really awkward dude.
Because that's who he is. Yeah. He would. I know if he is appearing tomorrow, I know that he fully does not want to.
Not tomorrow. Saturday.
Oh, sorry, Saturday. My bad. Yeah, we're releasing this the day before, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So tomorrow for you guys.
I guess you're right. This is being recorded on Wednesday, the 19th. Yeah. But yes. Correct.
Yeah. So tomorrow, I hope that I hope they bring Pattinson then, and I hope he really doesn't want to be there because that's fully what I'm expecting.
Do you remember the controversy a couple months ago when he like trolled people and said he didn't want to work out, and he like every time his trainer would call him to work out, he would say no, and everyone got super mad. And I'm like, guys, Robert Pattinson is British and he's awkward. He's taking the piss out of everyone.
Yeah, and
he's
also
just being a goofball.
And he's also just like not. I feel like he's just a dude who doesn't buy into bullshit, you know.
Yeah, his
and
Batman
it's like,
is gonna be different.
Yeah, I think it's just because realistically, like working out's a hard thing to do, you know. And it's the hardest part about working out isn't getting the muscle in the first place. It's maintaining the muscle, right? Because if you don't have that, that's the problem with a lot of actors in Hollywood, like gaining muscle for roles, is that they don't actually want to do that. They're just doing it for a paycheck. And so as soon as that paycheck goes away, then the last thing they want to do is work out, right? For a lot of them.
I mean, especially look at Henry Cavill, Jason Momoa, Ben Affleck. Like those dudes are put through hell on earth during filming to look the way they do.
Yeah. And like Jason, I remember there was a controversy a little while ago. It was not really a big controversy.
Talking about the Jason Momoa dad bod pic on the beach.
Yeah. But it's like he has the right, you know? Like,
that was so ridiculous for people who were like, oh, he's letting himself go. And I'm like, he looks better than 95% of you.
Yeah, literally the only way you can, abs are a very strange muscle in the body because the only way to keep them up is by like irritating them on a daily basis, basically. Right? You
have
to
understand
work
that
out
when
your
they're
abs
filming
every
these
day.
movies, they're like not drinking any water. Like for these shots where they look insanely ripped, they're like literally starving themselves and looking like insane. Like the amount of crazy sacrifice that goes into looking like that for a shoot is insane.
That's most of their job to be honest, right?
Because
with these big movies, so much of it is in the editing that like really it's just having the look and having the right body language and embodying the character, you know. It's not actually there's hardly ever big dramatic scenes
100%
that don't involve multiple cuts anyway.
So the next panel, I don't know how we even got in that discussion. But the next panel, this is actually hilarious. I can't believe this is happening. On Saturday at 1:20 p.m., Chris Daughtry is going to deliver a solo acoustic performance of his hit song "Waiting for Superman," and then he's going to do a special performance with his new band of a new song called "World on Fire," and this is 10 minutes long.
I just have a confused expression on my face for you audience listeners at home. Yeah.
Chris Daughtry will be singing "Waiting for Superman," which is a perfectly fine pop song from 2013.
Yeah.
That is hilarious to me that's in like the Hall H of this event.
Yeah,
it's just this dude on Zoom playing acoustic guitar.
At the very least, get Three Doors Down and play Kryptonite.
It's true. That would
like
be cool.
That's I would not have any confused expression on my face because I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That song fucking slaps. But yeah, it's the odd choice, DC.
I have no personal beef with Chris Daughtry. He seems like he won American Idol, I think. Mm-hmm. He's a nice enough dude, but I would also prefer Kryptonite by Three Doors Down. That would be cool.
Okay.
I think this will be when I take my bathroom break during the fandom.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's
no offense, Chris Daughtry. You seem like a fine enough gentleman, but no thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's go next one.
Yes, The Joker, Put on a Happy Face at 1:30. Featuring interviews with filmmakers and industry legends, discover the origins and evolution of the Joker and learn why the clown prince of crime is universally hailed as the greatest comic book supervillain of all time. 5 minutes long. And that's probably just going to be like a promo of just people saying what the Joker means to them. Very similar to the Legacy of the Bat.
Have you ever read the Joker's first appearance?
Oh no, I haven't. I mean, I know how he looked. I've seen the panels, but I haven't like
One
actually
of
read it.
one of his first lines is complaining while he's reading a newspaper about how they're portraying him, and he goes, "Oh, the newspaper's saying Joker has big boner in his heist." He goes,
Is that really what it says?
Yeah. He goes, "I'll show you who's got a big, I'll show you a big boner." It was like something like that because boner at the time just meant like mistake, or it meant like just a blunder basically, and it's really funny. But so if that's my dream for a Joker project, I want first appearance Joker to be talking about boners.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That sounds like a fantastic adaptation. Yeah, you can talk about Joker because we'll have a bigger discussion about the movie Joker at some point because I have distinct thoughts on that we disagree on. So you talk about Joker as a fan.
I mean, I think of this panel, it's 5 minutes. It's just probably going to be a recorded video of people saying, "When I first discovered the Joker" or whatever. And I'm sure Joaquin will have a soundbite. I doubt Jared Leto will.
That's the question. That's what I was about to ask.
If he'll even have like a moment on screen. But I think Joaquin will have a soundbite. You'll probably have an old interview footage with Heath Ledger. Jack Nicholson, I'm sure, will talk about it. Mark Hamill, just the more iconic people who've done that character. It'll be fine. We'll talk about the movie another time because we're like running short on time right now. And we got a lot more panels to talk about. But the next one is Jim Lee doing a portfolio review. He's going to look at fan-submitted art that focuses on DC supervillains. That's cool. That's a cool panel. Yeah. Jim Lee looking at fan art, giving notes, talking. I mean, he does if you if you go on YouTube, I don't have Twitch, but Jim Lee streams on Twitch all the time and just like draws. And it's unbelievably relaxing to watch him draw characters and really cool. It's like Bob Ross, where he's like,
that's nice.
And there's like a tendon here in the arm, and then I connect it here, and it does this, and I'm like, how does someone ever get this good at something? Yeah. It's insane. It's unbelievable.
I wish I could draw. I wish I could draw like that.
But if you use Twitch, search up Jim Lee. If you everyone has access to YouTube, you can watch videos of him teaching people how to draw. There's like an hour-long video of him teaching you how to draw Wonder Woman, and it's incredible. But Jim Lee, cool dude, amazing artist. At 1:45, surprise DC Comics panel. All it says is 20 minutes. This is the famed speculator right now, the blank panel. What is this? What does it lead into?
Does it say DC Comics? Is it going to be a comics announcement? It does say DC Comics,
so it might be a comics announcement. There originally was a to be announced panel, but it seems like it has dropped off. So maybe they switched it up at the last minute. But
give me your prediction, and we'll just do it like that.
The way this reads, it looks like it's going to be a comic announcement. If it's not, and it's more of just any DC announcement, Henry for Superman, please. This would be crazy for that, and I would love to see it. But it means having the phrase DC Comics, not just surprise announcement, definitely makes me think it's going to be comic booky.
Yeah, I think it'll be comic booky, and I think my prediction is that it's going to in some way. They might decide to release like an extended kind of like a prelude chapter or whatever to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh, that panel's coming later.
In the same way, yeah, I know, but I'm saying because it's a DC Comics announcement, right? They've already announced Snyder Cut, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like it'll be kind of like the Injustice comics and how that adds a lot of lore to the Injustice games.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my prediction. That it's going to be something to do with we have this creative team working on comic books that in the multiverse will line up with the movies.
That could be cool. That would be very cool.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, I would like that to be the case.
Yeah.
After that, we have I'm Batman, the voices behind the cowl panel. Everyone has their favorite Batman, but for audiences around the world, their favorite Batman has a local sound. It's time to meet the voices behind the cowl. Hear what it's like to be one of the many global vocal actors portraying the Dark Knight when the super dubbers who lend their talents to the Caped Crusader on screens big and small all over the world come together for the first time ever. Those in multiple languages with English subtitles. That's cool. That sounds fun. Like having all the different... It was like the Oscars a couple years ago when Idina Menzel sang Let It Go with all the different vocalists who did Elsa in the different countries and the dubs. Mm-hmm. So that's fun. I'll probably watch that. That sounds entertaining.
Yeah.
And I imagine Kevin Conroy will be there too.
it's nice. It's nice filler, you know. Like
Yeah.
it's more than filler, but it's also it's nice. It's a nice like you said, it's like a bathroom break type thing, but it's also to some extent
It's entertaining.
You're like, okay, that's cool.
It's interesting enough to hold your attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
After that, for me, is the granddaddy of them all, the Snyder Cut.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 25-minute panel. That's pretty short, actually.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Zack Snyder fields questions from fans and a few surprise guests, Henry Cavill, as he discusses his eagerly awaited upcoming cut of the 2017 feature film and the movement that made it happen. Confirmed we're getting a trailer. He's already teased it for a while. So we're getting the first official trailer of Zack Snyder's Justice League. The few surprise guests, the rumor right now is the entire league is going to pop up, that Ben Affleck will be there too. That would be awesome. I would love if they announced a Ben Affleck HBO Max series. That'd be incredible. I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately, but I would cry big old fan tears because I love Batfleck, and I would love to get anything more with him. I'm super pumped about Snyder Cut. We'll get more Affleck footage, but
yeah, I would be.
You surprise guests. That would be cool.
I'd be so beyond pumped for that.
Yeah.
I'd be here for that 100%.
But we've talked about Snyder quite a bit on this show, so there's not much else to say about this panel. But a few surprise guests. I would like to see Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck because they're not on the current list for this event, and I want more Superman and more. Batman.
I would like to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That would be cool.
That's my choice. All right. Yeah. Next.
Yes. Next one after that, the Flash TV panel.
We can you haven't seen it, and I know I'm not currently watching it. I mean, we've already talked about that also, but keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say.
Keep on going, CW. I'm sure that'll just be fan questions. The works.
Yeah, that's a great that's a great topic to talk about in the future at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After that, after 100 years of waiting, the Black Adam panel. Dwayne The Rock Johnson got cast in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2020, and we haven't even seen a still.
Well, I remember at the Justice League red carpet, Zachary Levi was there, and I was a big viewer of Chuck, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger. Chuck is one of my favorite shows of all time. And so when I saw him there, I was like losing my mind. I was freaking out, right? And I remember you lean over and saying, oh, he's favored that he's going to be cast as Shazam, because he wasn't cast at that point, right? I think The Rock was cast as Black Adam.
He was cast as Black Adam before
even before that, even before Justice League came out.
There was a big rumor that The Rock was going to play Shazam too, and that they were almost going to do two sides of a coin. I mean, I'm glad that didn't happen. Zachary Levi's brilliant in Shazam, and Shazam is a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
But it's about time. I really hope we get at least a picture. I don't know if they filmed anything of this movie yet, but I'd love to just see a costume test similar to how we got Robert Pattinson in the Batsuit earlier this year of The Rock as Black Adam. I want to see something.
I'll say about that movie though, right? Do we know who the director is?
It's the guy who did his other
That's what I thought.
Movies. It's a Rock guy.
It's the guy, see, and that honestly that worries me. I want to be wrong about that movie, but those movies like Skyscraper, Rampage, they're popcorn movies 100%. Like there's a value to them. It's like Dwayne Johnson versus a giant ape, Dwayne Johnson versus a skyscraper, right? That's basically what the plot of those movies are. I want Shazam to be something more than that. Or not Shazam, sorry, Black Adam to be something more than that.
Yeah, me too. So it's directed by Jaime Colette Serra, who, let's see which of the Rock's movies he's done. He's done some horror stuff. That's interesting. He did Jungle Cruise, which hasn't come out yet. He hasn't done any other Rock movies.
He hasn't? Really?
He did The Shallows, which was like a shark movie.
Did he produce stuff? Did he produce anything for The Rock?
Let's see. Not that I'm seeing on IMDb.
Okay.
So maybe
we could be totally wrong then, because there's that one guy that directs all The Rock's movies that I'm not the biggest fan of. If it's not him, then yeah, I'm totally talking about my ass then. And I'm happy to, if I am talking out my ass, that makes me happy. That's a good thing. So
yeah, but I'm excited for that. I want to see something. It says, and a few surprises here. For those of you who don't know, The Rock's business partner / agent, and also his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, is Henry Cavill's agent. So there's a lot of people thinking that the Black Adam movie is going to be Black Adam versus Superman. So when you were saying The Rock versus the giant ape, The Rock versus the skyscraper, I was thinking of like The Rock versus Superman.
I would be shocked. That's my take on that. I would be, because I don't think I want them to do that. I would much prefer they do a solo Superman than Black Adam. Because I care about The Rock more than I care about Black Adam, if I'm being honest. Because
Black Adam's a fine character, but the Rock is the reason I'm like excited for that film.
Yeah. He's just a weird choice. It's a weird choice for them to make. I understand why they're doing it because of the Rock's attachment and stuff. I just don't want it to be like Ant-Man, where it was pitched and planned far before whatever's going on in the DCEU now. And, I hope it's good. That's all I really have to say on that.
Yeah. It's I believe Hawkman is going to be in that movie too, and the Injustice League, or the Justice Society, excuse me. So could be cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
After that, we have CNN heroes, real life heroes in the age of coronavirus.
We can just skip it. Yeah. Yeah. We can just skip that.
That's
really
important.
Really fast. My iPad I'm using to do this right now is at 1% right now.
Okay.
So if it does die, then we'll take another intermission and I'll charge.
We can just do a break right now, and I'll just.
Let's do a break right now. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna do a charging break, but we'll be right back. And welcome back to the new adventures of K-Man and Spence. We are going to rapid fire through these last couple panels left on Fandome, because this episode is probably going to hit 2 hours, and that's a long time to be talking and a long time to be listening. But we appreciate those of you who have stuck through this with us.
Yeah, if you're still here,
yeah,
bless you.
Big love to you if you're still listening to us ramble about this stuff. But this is the supersized pilot, so we're just going for it. Mm-hmm. So after the Age of Coronavirus panel, which we didn't talk about because that's all anyone talks about, and this is supposed to be a little bit of escapism, so we're gonna talk about fun stuff. After that is the Titans TV panel. I have not seen season 2 of Titans. I don't believe you have either. We watched the first season together. I like some of it. I didn't like some of it. I
love Jason Todd. That's my favorite thing about that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some episodes are great. Other episodes were so dark, I was turned off, and I'm like a big horror movie guy too, so I can handle a healthy dose of dark. But watching Beast Boy vomit up someone's heart that he ate was kind of a lot, especially in Titans. So I wasn't there. There were some choices. I've heard season 2 was quite good. I at some point will probably watch it, because again, what the heck else am I doing? But I mean, maybe I'll watch this panel. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably announce a season 3 if they haven't already. I imagine. But I like all the casting too. Kieran, what do you think? Are you going to watch this panel?
I'm glad it's doing well. I probably won't, because I want to avoid spoilers, so I probably won't watch it because I haven't seen the second season. I've been meaning to. I actively want to watch that because I'm a big fan of the Titans as characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I won't watch it just for that reason, but I'm glad the show is doing well, because I want to, even though I haven't seen the second season, I want them to make a third season because I want to binge it, so.
Totally.
Great casting too. I like the casting for the most part. So.
Yes. So the Titans panel. After that is the Aquaman panel, which isn't what a lot of people thought it was. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of Aquaman 2 talk. What it is, it seems like James Wan and then Patrick Wilson, who plays Orm or Ocean Master in Aquaman, take a deep dive into the world of Atlantis that Wan created, revealing their favorite behind-the-scenes moments from the largest DC movie ever. And that's actually a fact. It's it made the most money of any DC movie ever, which is kind of hilarious that it's Aquaman. I love Aquaman. That. Yeah, I am a big fan of that movie. I think all of the criticism is just because people didn't realize it was on purpose. The movie is like a giant anime thing. Look at this man's. If you're listening, I'm holding up my Jason Momoa action figure. But Aquaman is a big dumb adventure movie. It's Lord of the Rings meets like anime meets like Magic Mike with Jason Momoa every so often winking at the camera. It is such a big, dumb, fun movie, and I love it.
Fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
Fun. My review for that would be fun. It's just a lot of fun the whole way through.
Pitbull
And it's
covers Africa by Toto.
Yeah. That's
to
a
be
weird
alive.
scene. Yeah. But it's like the same thing as we were saying earlier for Snyderverse movies, where it's like you have to just go with it. Except in this sense, I feel like it was a lot easier for people to just go with it because it's more goofy. You know,
and I think
general.
the reason it made so much money is it was an IMAX release and the visual effects are unbelievable. So I'm actually looking forward to hearing them talk about the visual effects. There hasn't been a lot of discussion how they did that, and I think it did. I don't believe it even got nominated for the Oscars, and I thought that was a huge snub because I thought it had incredible visual effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Aquaman's super fun movie. James Momoa says is not going to be there. I'm calling BS. I think he'll show up. Why wouldn't he? He'll probably show up at the end and be like, "What's up, bro? I just drank some Guinness and I'm Aquaman." That's my Jason Momoa impression.
That's pretty good. Impression.
Every interview, he talks about drinking Guinness.
Yeah. He met his wife that way.
Yeah. He's married to Lisa Bonet, who was on The Cosby Show. There's a really interesting interview where he had like a crush on her as a kid, like watching The Cosby Show, and then they got married and they were older, and I think that's fun. That's sweet.
No,
it gives hope for all of us who have TV crushes.
Yeah. And the moment he knew that she was going to be his wife was when they were sitting in the bar after, like the night after they had just met, or that same night at the very end of the night, and she ordered a Guinness, and he's like, "This is the woman for me."
He's a big Guinness
He's
guy.
a great guy, and also another really fast and a little tangent on that. My cousin's fiance has a lot of has friends that work at the Guinness Brewery in Dublin. And apparently, like, he gave me the rundown on all of the celebrity people when they come to visit. But Jason Momoa gets the nicest guy award, apparently.
Really?
Because he was just so he was not only like nice, but he was just so genuinely curious and interested in the tour, you know. And like he was actually asking so many questions because he was fascinated by how Guinness is made. Genuinely, just he's supposed to be like just a really, really genuine guy. So
I mean, when we saw him at the premiere, he seemed like a nice dude.
Yeah. I'd love to see a sequel.
Yeah. Oh, they've announced it, and they're doing Aquaman 2. And they're doing the Trench spinoff, which I don't know how they're going to do that, but they're apparently going to be very horror inspired, which makes sense because it's Juan's team.
Yeah.
I think his production company is like Creepy Puppet or something, or that's like his Twitter handle. I don't know. But cool. Yeah, I'm going to watch that. That seems like it'll be fun. After that is Ask Harley Quinn, which I believe is an animated Kaylee Cuoco as Harley Quinn answering fan questions. And then they haven't officially announced season 3. I am nearly positive that they're going to do that in that panel. That would just make sense. You know, it's a panel with that character from that series. If the show's canceled, there's no way they're going to.
iPad died, so I'm in here now.
Oh. Well, hello.
Hello. We'll finish it off from here.
Yeah. Fun first episode for you. We're roommates, but we were sharing a different room for video purposes, but now we're together. But yeah, I think that this will be a season 3 announcement for sure. And then it's just an animated answer, her answering questions. So that's fun. You know, it'll be like interacting with an animated character.
I still need to watch that.
Yeah. I'm not, full disclosure, I'm like 2 episodes off of finishing season 1 of Harley Quinn. I've took a while to watch it because I had DC Universe and then I felt like I wasn't getting enough in return for it. So I canceled it. Yeah, look at that.
We look like such mustachios.
Yes. If you're listening, we both have mustaches because why not?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to right now. But yeah, I'll definitely watch that.
You'll have finished it by the time this airs.
I will, yeah. The next panel is Wonder Woman 80th Celebration, probably very similar to the Legacy of the Bat panel. As an Amazon and a god, Wonder Woman is truly timeless, so it's hard to believe she's turning 80. Join Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot, along with a very special guest, who I imagine will be Linda Carter from the old series.
Oh.
That would be smart.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, as they reflect on the character's influence on them personally and look forward to the 2021 celebration's 5 minutes.
Okay.
So that'd be cool. Yeah. It'll just be them saying, hey, Wonder Woman's neat, and Wonder Woman is.
This is a great process of the two of us looking at ourselves in the camera.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
After that, Tomorrow's Superheroes with Jim Lee. This is a 15-minute panel where, they're talking about a global nonprofit collective, and they discuss the important contributions of Asian artists and writers in comic books and comic book-inspired entertainment. That sounds great.
Very cool.
That sounds really cool. I am going to watch that. That sounds nice. Yeah, not a lot to say about that. Not a lot to speculate on. It'll just be a nice thing to watch, and I'm all for more Asian representation. If we, in a future episode, we'll pitch different actors to play different roles, but I would love to see an Asian actor play Dick Grayson. I think that would be wonderful. Shazam panel. It's the next one after that. Shazam is wonderful. This is Zach Levi in the cast can't tell you S word. Sworn to secrecy on the new script for their upcoming film, Zach and a few of his Shazam castmates talk with the Philippines' #1 DC fan, Gino Quilamar, I apologize if I butchered your name, about what the next movie might be about, while commenting on everything from panels to the other Zach's cut, and even have a few surprise guests drop in. That sounds fun.
If Adam Brody is in there, I'm so there.
That'd be great.
I'm so down. Yeah.
I think the whole joke there, they can't tell you anything, I think they're going to tell us something. They wouldn't make a bit of that if they didn't intend to reveal something. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure we'll get a little bit of news about Shazam 2 there. Maybe Black Adam. Who knows? The Wonder Woman 1984 cast play a game. Fun.
Cool.
It's called Werewolf. I probably will, again, use the restroom when that's on. This is the big deal. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Will Arnett, the voice of Lego Batman, if you didn't know that, hosts the highly anticipated video game reveal from Rocksteady, who we talked about earlier, creator of the Batman's Arkham franchise. This is a 20-minute panel. We'll probably get a game trailer, maybe some gameplay footage.
It's such a cool poster. We're looking at the
it's
poster
incredible
right now, the target on Superman's head.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, let's do it.
Yeah.
Super psyched.
I will probably watch a cutscene movie of the game, but I like the Suicide Squad and I like Superman, and I think that's an amazing idea. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League.
They're doing a lot more team-up games nowadays.
They are,
because the Avengers game came out recently.
Is it good? I've heard mixed things.
I don't think it's out yet.
Okay.
I think. I'm not sure.
All right. And then the final panel of the day, The Batman. The Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves joins host and self-professed fangirl Aisha Tyler. Geez, I can't talk. Fangirl Aisha Tyler for a discussion of the upcoming film with a surprise or two for the fans. 30 minutes. This is one of the longer panels of the day. Well, today, on Wednesday, they dropped a trailer for the Saturday's event. And in that trailer, Matt Reeves says, I can't come to this event and not show something from the movie. So we'll at least get some footage, probably a clip. I don't think they have a trailer edited yet because they still have like a lot to shoot of the movie.
Yeah.
But they're entering production again in September. They're going to do, like they're building all the sets on the soundstage, and they're going to do like a bubble, kind of how the NBA is doing, if you're familiar with that, to keep everyone distanced together to shoot it. But the Batman's going to be done by 2021. They've committed to that they're going to at least wrap principal photography. But this panel, I think Robert Pattinson will show up. Doesn't say he's going to be there. I bet he is. Matt Reeves will talk movie. I think we'll get probably not. I don't know if we'll get a full trailer. We'll probably get a teaser or a sizzle reel of just what they have. I hope we get pictures of the people in costume. I would love to get Zoe Kravitz and Catwoman, Paul Dano and the Riddler. What's his name? Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah.
Other person as the Penguin. I don't know why I said Oswald Cobblepot. His name's the Penguin.
Both of them work.
Both are correct, but
I feel like he'll probably go by Cobblepot in the.
Well, Matt Reeves tweeted Oz, and that they might be calling him Oz. And
interesting.
Yeah, and that he might not be the villain of this one. The rumor, again, a fan fiction DC leak that I read somewhere.
Yeah.
Is that the Riddler's the villain, and that the Penguin is running for office, and it's kind of like a diversion.
It's like Falcone in the Batman Begins.
Very similar.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But that sounds fun, and that's the last panel of the day. I'm excited to see a lot about this movie. I feel like this is a movie I don't know much about. Most people don't know much about. There's a lot of mystery. It's its own universe for now. I imagine they'll probably try and bring it in later on down the line. But from everything we've seen, it looks kind of noir, which is interesting. It's very much Matt Reeves kind of doing his vision for it, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the final panel of the day. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up this first inaugural episode of the new adventures of K-Man and Spence.
K-Man Spence.
So K-Man, Kieran Collins, where can people find you online?
Oh boy, I'm doing this now. That's cool. Okay, so at Captain Collins on Instagram, at I believe Kieran D Collins on Twitter, and also Kieran D Collins on Letterboxd. Yeah, I tweet stuff from time to time. Letterboxd is really probably the place you want to find me if you're looking for my thoughts on entertainment stuff.
Yeah,
typically. So, yeah.
And you can find me on all the platforms, Twitter at SpencerBennett7, Instagram at SpencerJBennett. Follow the Deconstructed Podcast Network on Instagram at Deconstructed Network. And then subscribe to the Deconstructed Podcast Network on YouTube. And you can find everything on Apple and
I don't think we've done
Spotify.
it yet, but we're probably going to make a social media account for this show.
Yes.
And so follow us.
On whatever that may
On
be.
whatever that is.
We'll
have it next time anyway.
Yes, and it'll probably be in the a link will be in the description of the show. But with that, we are out of time and out of topics. Thank you so much for listening to the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. If you like the show, you can check us out at anchor.fm/the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. You can also tell a friend about our show and help us grow our small community of comic, nerd, whatever you want to call this show, fanatics. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
And be careful not to get bitten by a radioactive spider.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Writing and producing for this episode of The New Adventures of K-Man and Spence was done by myself, Spencer Bennett, and my co-host, Kieran Collins. Editing was done by Spencer Bennett. Our logo was created by Spencer Bennett. Our music was composed by Brandon LaBelle. This show is a proud participant in the Deconstructed Podcast Network. Link in the description. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.